Cool, dude. John,
Hey.
welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. We met recently at the Mecca. At a
Yeah,
show.
dude, I don't know why it's taken us so long.
We have a lot of mutual connections.
Yeah, and I've heard about you previous, but
Same.
we just never made the connection until
Yep.
now, so I'm happy.
Yeah, well, welcome to the show, dude. So
Thanks, man.
I can't wait to dig into this. You have quite the experience in business and military, and you kind of sound like you've done it all and had the ups and downs throughout your life. And so I want to have this conversation and tell the world a little bit about you. So if you want to start, let's start where you're from.
Dude, originally from Montana.
Okay, what part?
Billings. So that's the thing that sucks. Like anytime people are like, "Oh, you're from Montana. Oh, it's beautiful there." It's like,
not anymore.
Not Billings.
Nope.
Yeah, there's the west side. That's beautiful. You got Missoula and Bozeman, the mountains, and then Billings is just oil refineries and flatland.
Yeah, which not a lot of people think about that.
Yeah.
You drive through it, and you're like, dude, this is Montana. I mean, 99% of Montana is just absolutely gorgeous, except for
the shit side.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
That's where I grew up, and it's bad. Like I don't know if you're aware, but like Billings it's considered the crystal meth capital of the world
I did not know that.
per capita.
Really?
Per capita, based on
Yeah.
how many people live there and how much meth is there, and it's bad. It's like crime rate's horrible there, and yeah. So that's where I grew up, and I got kind of sucked into that life. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
At what age?
Dude, young, high school. I played sports, but wasn't really accepted by. I didn't fit in with the jocks,
Okay.
And
Why is that?
I don't know. Probably because I was an outcast. I was picked on through school,
Okay.
going up through high school. And so even though I played sports, I never like fit in with that group, and kind of found my group was probably the not so good kids smoking weed, and then you got into drugs and turned into coke, and even did some crystal and.
Really? In high school?
Oh yeah. And
You
I
were
was
doing crystal
drinking-
meth in high school?
Yeah, dude, it was rampant out there. So it started with weed and doing all these other drugs, and was selling drugs, and every weekend I was just blazed out of my mind, whether smoking weed or
Where were your
drinking
parents?
beer. And that's the thing. My parents are great parents. Like they were very involved, and they were, really good. It's just I got sucked into this life with this. I thought I was some thug, and
Oh, really?
that group like accepted me, and I was part of that crew, and that's what we did.
Really?
And so it was crazy. Right when I got out of high school, I moved away. I was like, I'm out of here. I can't,
What age?
18. Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Texas. No plan.
Oh, God.
No nothing. I was just. Then my parents were like, "Are you serious?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, I'm out of here."
What? Why? Like you just needed a
there
break?
there was a girl that moved down there, so I was kind of chasing
Always.
a girl.
Okay.
And made it down there, and that didn't last fast. But
So now you're stuck in Texas.
yeah, I was in Texas, and I got a job, and I found out that I had the gift of gab and could sell, and was making like $70,000.
Where'd you move to in Texas?
Denton. It's over by Dallas. It's
Okay.
like just north of Dallas. But yeah, I did a lot of traveling through that area, and was making a shit ton of money, and then got homesick and missed my parents, and because all I was doing was working.
So you were clean
So-
there.
Little
Ish,
bit,
ish.
a little bit, and that's what sucks. 'Cause, like I fell into this like double lifestyle where it's like during the day I was a business professional, even though I was young and really good salesperson. At night I would just wild out of control.
Really? That's
Yeah.
got to take a toll on you after
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah, and so then ended up moving back to Montana, and then got a job up in Montana. And same thing, I was really good at sales, so I kept getting promoted, and traveled with this company. And same thing, though, I was doing the same wild shit. Like,
Really? And nobody knew?
No, not even not even my wife. Not until later. But
When did you get? How old were you when you got married?
I was 27.
Okay.
Yeah, 27, 28. Had a daughter. And then, but yeah, that lifestyle catches up to you real fucking quick.
Did you end up getting caught up with it, or how?
Yeah, and dude, a lot of people don't know this, because when people are like, hey, why'd you join the military? My answer has always been kind of half truth.
Okay.
Right?
What's
And
the
I was-
full truth?
I got caught up. I did some really dumb shit. And
Can we talk about the really dumb shit?
I don't want to go too deep into
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got caught up just basically living the two lifestyles, and I made some really bad choices, and I got fired from my job. And so people ask, hey, why'd you join the military? And I always say I lost my job during the housing collapse, which is true.
Yeah.
I did lose it, but I lost it because I did some really fucking dumb shit. And there was a case that was going to be put against me, and I thought, hey, I'll join the military and escape this. Stupidest idea ever.
You didn't get to
Right.
escape it, and now you're in the military.
Well, it's not that. It's like I thought that like I would be able to escape it and move away, and that the charges wouldn't catch up with me.
Okay.
But if you're in the system with the military, especially, like then you can really get fucked up. But somehow something happened, and the charges never materialized, and they had a good case against me. But
Really? So you got to count your blessings on that one then.
I did. But so I joined the military. That was kind of like number one, like how do I escape this situation I got myself into? And then number two was I was sick of my life being in sales and stuff like that. And it's like I want to do something fun. I want to do something important.
So you joined at what age? 28? 29?
I was 30.
Man,
I'm
you're an
old, yeah.
old man at boot camp.
Yeah.
Or you went to
And that's
Army,
the
so
crazy
basic
thing.
training
So,
for you.
yeah, I went to what's that?
Basic training for you guys, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I went to basic training, and I remember the first day I went down to the recruiter's office. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna do a PT test. You should come down here," because I told him I wanted to be infantry and shit. He was like, "Let's see how you rack up." And so I went down there on that Thursday, and they gave me a full PT test. And I remember it took me like 26 minutes to run 2 miles, and I threw up like 3 times. Because back then I was a smoker. I was drinking. I was
That party life.
Yeah, party life. And that was an eye opener. I was like, "Oh shit!" And so I wasn't expected to deploy to boot camp or to go out to boot camp for like 3 months. And so every day I ran and was doing sit-ups and push-ups, just trying to increase my time. And
Yeah.
by the time I made it to boot camp, like when you first show up, even though the military test is a 2-mile run, they have you, when you first show up, you run 1 mile. And I ran it in like 6 minutes and 19 seconds. Like one of the fastest guys there. And I was like, yes, like I overcame it. And so you got to that point, you get an early promotion if you can pass your PT test. So I got that early promotion, and then the rest is history. So
What was it like? We had we say old man in our
Yeah.
platoon, 30,
yeah,
right?
which is young, but
As
but
a
yeah,
18, you're in there with
Right.
some 17-year-olds that are getting waivers from their parents signing. I mean, we had one of my best friends when he joined, his mom had to sign the waiver because he wasn't 18 yet. So now you're in there with
all these young
children,
kids. Yeah.
kids. How does that feel when you're standing online and you're just looking at children? You're like, man, how did my life lead me here?
Yeah. I think the crazy thing, I looked at it from the reverse angle because I was looking at some of these young kids that were in, and you saw it break some kids.
Oh, for sure.
And it would have broke me at that age. I guarantee it. I guarantee
Okay,
I would have,
so-
I'm happy I didn't join till later, because at the younger age, I feel like I wouldn't have been mature enough to handle it or been able to cope with like the mental stress they put you through. So I think the fact that I was older, I was able to deal with a lot of it. that don't
I
think
feel
I
like
could.
everybody I've talked to that have joined later on, that's kind of the thing that you get from it is all of them are like, man, I never got messed with as much because I knew what to do. Obviously,
Yeah.
mass punishment. There's no avoiding mass punishment, but they're like,
Yeah.
I never got singled out. Like these kids would just get roasted all day and
Yeah.
just get hazed all day, and they're like,
And
I
they would
just
do dumb shit.
yeah. So
and
you have the
yeah.
maturity level, and I feel like drill instructors or drill sergeants they know, like, obviously you're a grown ass man at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
but then you're dealing with some 17, 18-year-old kid that just is belligerent. I mean, that was probably me on the line standing there just
Yeah, and
being
that's
an
why
asshole, but-
that's the other thing I thought of. Like, if I was that age, yeah, I would have been disrespectful. I would have probably got kicked out of the military for
doing dumb shit.
doing dumb shit.
So I guess joining it, I mean, physical wise is probably a little bit rougher on the body,
it was.
but at the same time, maturity wise, I mean, you're not finding yourself in dumb situations and getting
Right.
hemmed up for anything.
And I think that was like the turning point in my life too, and that's why everything I do now is like geared back towards the military, because it really did change my life. Like the way I was living, 2 different lifestyles, and just doing dumb shit and putting myself in real bad situations.
Yeah.
The military really opened my eyes, like, to what really was important in life, and like getting in at that age. Even though I was the older dog, it's like I learned so many new lessons from
Oh,
it.
for sure. For sure.
So yeah, by the time I got a basic training, I was the PG. I don't know if they did that in the Marines, but you'd have like a PG platoon guide.
Oh, yeah.
So I was the
absolutely.
platoon guide in basic, and then I went to AIT, and I was Top Gun there, and then so I just fast tracked to the military. So within 2 years, I got promoted to sergeant. Within 4,
Really?
yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Within 4, I got promotable to E6, but I never made points. But yeah, it was It was a great experience. Like it really.
So it was something positive. Now you're like,
Yeah.
okay, like this is
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is
like
how.
I'm clean now, with the exception of I do microdose, like that helps me with PTSD and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you know,
Was it
really
tough going? Well, I mean, so once you kind of backtrack a little bit, once you lost your job,
Mm-hmm.
you were married with a kid at that point.
Yeah. So when I
How did the
left for
wife take that?
basic- So interesting. The wife, because at that time she didn't know about the legal stuff that was coming after me.
Oh, okay.
Like I kept it. I even kept it a secret from her, and me and her have since split.
Okay.
Right. She's in a good relationship. I probably wasn't the best husband. I was just a shitbag before I joined the military, and I realized all of this looking back on it. Me and her are like really good friends now, and we co-parent. Yeah, so for me, when I went down, I was like, hey, I'm joining the military, and she was like, you're gonna do what? And same thing with her. I was like, I gotta do something with my life, and this is gonna pay for my college education, and there's so many great benefits, and I wanted to be infantry.
Yeah.
And she was like, you have a 2-year-old daughter, you're not going infantry. So we went down and talked to the counselor, the recruiter.
Yeah.
And he was giving us different options. He was like, you could do military intelligence. And I was like, no, fuck that. Like,
It's gonna be a grunt.
desk. And yeah, I was like, I want to go do something important.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, well, what about artillery? And he's like, that way you're away from the distance, but you're shooting rounds in. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds all right, you know. And I was fortunate because I took that job. She was okay with that. She's like, okay, you're going to be safe. You're going to be over here on a base. And when I got to my first duty station at Fort Knox, like, hey, we're deploying in 6 months. And they were like, we're a maneuver element. And so we get to go ruck up and down mountains and look for
Meaning you're
bad
not
guys. And I was
doing
like,
anything with the
yes.
cannons.
Right. So, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go be rucking up and down mountains looking for bad guys, and I got to do it. My wife was fucking pissed, but
I could imagine.
but dude, it worked
The old
out
bait
great.
and switch, huh?
Yeah, it worked out great.
So
for
what
me.
year was this?
It was 2010.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so you said mountains, so you headed off to Afghan.
Yep.
How was that?
It was interesting.
Where were you?
So the first deployment I was RC East, so
Okay.
FOB Salerno, was Rocket City, so it was always being rocketed.
How was that? So it's hard to explain what's like getting rocketed or mortared.
Yeah, all the time.
It's
It was
people find it. I've told stories of my wife, and she's just like, people get used to it in a way. You almost get desensitized.
Yes, that's
And-
the perfect word.
And
Yeah.
we were operating out of a fob. We were living out of a house, but the fob would get mortared like every third day, and every third day was our day to go back and resupply. It was our QRF day, so if you were QRF, you were kind of just kicking at the house, waiting, to roll out.
Yeah.
Or you'd go back to the fob, resupply, get fuel, water, food, and whatever. That was every day. It would get mortared.
day,
It was
yeah.
like it was every. Well, for us, it was every third day, and it was almost became like a running joke, like because you could hear the mortars go off. You'd hear that, boom, and you knew. For us, at least, we could hear it because it was close, and we would know, like, okay,
It's
here it
coming.
comes, and
Yeah.
like it was like this. Guys would be running and laughing, like, hurry! Like it became a joke after a little while. I mean, I'll never
Like a
forget.
game.
I was sitting next to one of my best friends, and we're eating chow in a Humvee as mortars are dropping in. It's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So
Like if it's gonna hit, it's gonna hit.
it's crazy to think, and so you were dealing with it every day.
Yeah, it was rockets. Some mortars I never heard, because they would shoot at us from Pakistan. We were that close to the Pakistan border. They
okay.
would shoot over from Pakistan in.
How
But I
accurate
remember
were
they weren't very accurate, but they would get lucky, And
sure.
some of the blast ranges, because they were shooting 105 rockets at us, so
okay.
the blast range was pretty big.
Yeah.
But I remember, we landed in Salerno, and it was nighttime, and it was a blackout fob because we were always being rocketed. So you
This
land,
is
and
your
it's-
time to go into. This is your first coming into Afghan.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we land in Salerno in a C-130, and it was a real. So I just remember that landing was so rough because it's like it came in sweet because it wasn't a long runway. So you came in, it's the middle of the night, you get off the plane, it's pitch black. All you can see is stars. Like I've never seen so many stars in my life because it's just there's no lights out there. And you went to kick on like your light, and people are yelling at you, shut your light off because the base was being rocketed all the time. Any light source, you were giving them a target. So it's middle of the night, you can't see shit, you're walking, and we get to our chews, like our little rooms where we threw our mattresses and
Yeah.
stuff in, And I remember my smoke came up to me and was like, because at that point I was just promoted to specialist, and they were going to make me corporal. He was like, Clip, you need to go get the trucks, make sure that they're ready to go, because, like we landed and it's like go time already. And like we hadn't even ripped out with the guys that we were replacing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No
he's
left
like,
seat,
just
right seat, none of that?
No, we did, but he was like, it was instant. He was like, hey, you got to go make sure we got food in the trucks, that we got ammo. And I was like, okay. And he was like, so I want you up at 5 a.m. And it was like midnight. And I was like, all right, cool. So me and this other specialist, Yates, got up at 5 a.m. to go fit the trucks. And all of a sudden, there was just this loud zipping sound. Never heard anything like it, It was just zoop. That's exactly what it sounded like. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Me and Yates looked at each other like, what the fuck? And then there was boom, loud-ass explosion. And the sirens went off after the impact. It was like, bam, bam, bam,
Yeah.
incoming.
Does no help
And
for
it's
you.
like, oh, fuck, like, what the fuck was that? I'd never heard a rocket before. So you always hear it on TV, and it's always like a whistling sound. And it was this weird zipping sound, and I'll never forget that sound. But
It's a very
and that
distinct
was,
sound.
yeah, very distinct sound. Next thing you know, like you said, it's pandemonium, it's chaos. And we're new to the FOB. We just landed. Guys are running around getting their gear, and lieutenants
You guys
out
have
there,
no
yeah,
idea
it's
what's
like,
going
what?
on.
Yeah, and they're like, we're QRF, we're rolling out. And I don't even know if he had a poo site, like a point of origin site, but we just rolled out. And it's like chaos. I remember that first mission. It was like nobody knew. We didn't know where we were going, where we were at. We just knew that we got rocketed and we were rolling out. But like you said, it was every single day. Like FOB Salerno, it went from a point where there were times you got rocketed 3 times a day. And so that first year, we went out on over 400 missions.
Good Lord.
Because there were days like we'd have a mission, we'd have a patrol mission where we were going to go have a presence patrol through a village. Then we get rocketed, and when we got rocketed, guess what? We're going back out, because we were the QRF for that.
So you guys would go out on patrol, do a mission all day, come
QRF,
back.
Yeah.
If you got rocketed, then you had the QRF and go look for it?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And I think about it, like, because I was like, God, this, at the time, I was like, this sucks. But then I was looking at the poor bastards that were up in, like, Tower Guard.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I'd rather be doing this than that, dude.
I couldn't imagine we call them fobbits.
Yeah.
And so, like, they just guard the towers and the front gate. And God, you want to talk about the most miserable job.
That was also my first experience with suicide, too, which was...
Really?
Veteran, yeah. I forget, it was like day 4. It was our first week on the FOB, and me and Sergeant Kennedy, one of my platoon leaders, our platoon sergeants, was walking the FOB. We were looking for, I forget, something. And we heard this loud bang over from this tower, and we both looked over like, oh, what was that? And he was like, oh, I think they were a bunch of, like, plywood sheets, like wood. And he was like, I think one of those plywood sheets just fell. And no, the dude up in the tower had taken his own life. Damn. Yeah, he was just sick of being up there.
Which it happens, honestly. I don't want to say quite often, but I know we had a guy that we were ripping with. They just got to Al Assad. I think they were there like 3 days, 4 days. And we had a dude, not in our unit. It was a different unit that just got there. I think it was the unit that was taken over from us, but he ended up, found out his wife and got the John Doe letter or phone call and took his dog, and
Damn.
And it happens. And I had buddies on my deployment. He had the same thing. I mean, it happens quite often over there. Nobody ever talks about it.
In Afghanistan?
Well, this is Iraq
In
for
Iraq?
us.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's like, it's just never spoken of. Like, I've never seen, I mean, being in the veteran, working in the veteran community for the last decade, I've never heard a stat or any statistics or anything that come out about active duty taking their life overseas.
Yeah, I think that was...
It's kind of an eye-opener.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah,
what the
it is,
fuck?
man.
Like, why?
It's and people always ask me, like, how was your deployment? And it's tough to answer that question, too, because everybody's deployment's differently and how they handle it.
Oh, for sure.
How
was your deployment?
The first one was hectic. That's the one where we were being rocketed all the time, hitting IEDs, stuff like that. But and then the second time when I went over, I was my own chief, so I had my own guys.
Yep.
I had my own squad, and it's like I was trying to prep them for what to expect and how we were going to handle business and shit like that. And we got over there, and it was nothing.
Yeah.
It was nothing. We had some green on blue stuff happen on the FOB, and we had a massive IED, but that was it. not like the first time where we were hitting IEDs all the time and we were rolling out.
What were you guys? What was on your first deployment? What was a basic mission for you guys? Were you just going out and just shaking hands, just checking towns, or what?
Yeah, there was basic missions for us. Like most of it was just presence patrols and having KLEs, meeting with just village elders and trying to win over hearts and minds and shit like that, But we would do night missions where we'd have to go watch these routes, and we were looking for rockets being pulled in from Pakistan into Afghanistan.
Did you ever find any?
Oh yeah.
How was that?
Well, so here's the crazy thing. So yeah, there were multiple caches that we did find, and that always made you feel good. And some of them were huge. We found some huge caches, and you just zip tie up the people and you bring them in to be interrogated.
So you're finding transporting them? Are they hiding them? Like, what? Or you guys are just watching?
We would find them in Kalats when we actually
explain
raid
the Kalats.
So Kalats is just the Afghanistan's house, right? The Afghan's house. Now this was kind of like an eye opener for me too, because there were times we would raid a Kalat, we'd have intel that they had shit, and we would find like huge caches, and then it was our mission to subdue the individuals that lived there, that resided there, and bring them in to be interrogated by whoever, CIA operatives or whatever. But I remember there was a couple times where we had bad intel, and it seems like that was
a very common thing.
Very
common thing.
And the eye opener to me, we raid this Kalat, and when you raid, you're not being nice. You're just breaking shit. You're looking for whatever they have.
The not so hearts and minds of the mission.
Right.
Yeah.
And we raid this Kalat, and the thing is, when you're in their home, when you're in an Afghan person's home, their Kalat, you are a guest. And because we didn't want to cause an international incident, you weren't allowed to touch the females in the house.
Oh, for sure.
Right? You don't touch them.
Yeah.
And that was always scary, too, because it's like, how do I know she doesn't have a suicide bomb on underneath her Gurkha or whatever? But we're in there, and we have the men separated. We had them zip tied off to the side. And the women are roaming around, and they're bringing us tea and like treats because we're guests in their house. And they also teach you, like, if they offer you something, you take it. If you refuse to take it, then that's like a huge sign of disrespect. So meanwhile, we're destroying their house looking for stuff, and you're taking their treats and tea and drink. It's like they have very little as it is, and we're fucking their place up. And I'm going to take their food and tea? Like, to me, I was like, what? This is fucked up.
It is
this
weird.
Is fucked up, So you do gain, like, a respect for your enemy, and for those people over there, too. Because I remember there was one KLE we went into talking to this village elder, and we had our interpreter in there, and it was kind of hostile. Like, we thought we were going to get in, like, a gunfight. So they pulled in security inside this KLE. It was me and a couple other guys. We had our M4s. And you could tell there was definitely tension in there. And my lieutenant asked the leader, he was like, hey, do you know why we're here? And leader's like, yeah, you're trying to take over our land. You want Afghanistan. Americans want Afghanistan. He was like, no, do you know about 9/11? Do you know about the planes flying into the buildings? No idea.
No clue.
So and I was like, wow, like, yeah, like, they don't have radios, they don't have TVs, they only know the propaganda they're being fed.
Through word of mouth.
Yeah, by the
they can't
Taliban,
read.
by the enemies, so that was opening too, because it's like, all right, I put myself in their shoes. If we were invaded, by a foreign country, like, would I take up arms? Would I want to fight if that's all I knew? Like,
I think about that quite often, to be honest with you. If the roles were reversed, now knowing. I'm not going to get into like conspiracies, because I'm one of those people, hardcore. Like, I feel we should not have ever been there.
Yeah.
Anyways, I look back at it now. When I went to Afghan, I was contracting, so I wasn't doing the day in and day out missions. But I'm speaking on as far as Iraq. I look back at those times, and I'm like, God dang, man, like, we fucked up a lot of shit, like, on purpose, and I would 100% burn everything in my path if somebody did that to my home.
Right.
Or treated my kids the way that, I'm not saying us, we were always, like, the same. You couldn't touch women or children like that.
Yeah.
No detaining. We had a Terp that would put them, but as far as the guys and just going through and rummaging through homes, and on my second deployment, we did a lot of just cordon knocks and searches, and it was a completely different view then, because it wasn't hostile, whatever. And so, but like, I think about it quite often that, like, if the roles were reversed, how would we be treating these people?
Right.
And knowing that I mean, you come over a little hill and there's I don't want to call it a village, like 5 or 6 houses inside of like a compound.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 5 or 6 people sleeping in one room with like 3 sheep in the corner, tied up in a corner, and you go into this house and you're just like, these people have no idea why they don't even know who we are.
Right.
I mean, there's times we were going to villages and they'd never even seen Americans before.
Right. We had that once. It was a village that had never been touched. We went to, and they thought we were Russians.
Yeah.
Thought the Russians were still there.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
And they have no idea. And it's like, I don't want to say you feel bad, but in a way there is some sort of like empathy or like, I'm sorry, like I'm just doing my job. Yep. But then obviously you get the guys that, the 10% that give everybody the bad name and the rep. But it's a weird feeling looking back now. It's like, now that I've matured and I have a home and I have a family and this is mine, like my property, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to protect it. Yeah. And not even speaking country-wise, if we had these foreigners that are just driving wherever they want and tearing everything out. I mean, I completely like look back on those days and like, man, like we fucking deserved. I don't want to say like we deserved like it was, but like we should not have been there. And they were doing whatever they had to do to defend their land, their home, and everything. So like I get it. Like it's war's hell, man. I mean, it sucks. Yeah. So it's a weird feeling coming back now and just looking back. And I know people will probably be like, "Fuck all those people." Like they all, I know those guys, but like, it's like, dude, we were kids. We were just doing a job, and we never found weapons of mass destruction. There wasn't all this crap that we went to go. It's like, that's how I look at it now. It's kind of weird, being able to kind of relate to them in a way. Yeah. It's a weird feeling.
It is. You put yourself in their shoes and you realize that this person's really just like me.
They really are. They really are. Different culture. They have different beliefs, but it's like, why are theirs any different than ours as far as right or wrong? I get it. I mean, they do some weird things and there's some stuff of that culture that I definitely do not support, but it's their life, man. They don't know any different.
Yeah. So you dealt with a lot of that internal conflict, when you're over there, and like you said, after the fact, thinking back on it, it's like, wow.
I mean, you're just sitting at dinner and you get your door kicked in. Yeah.
Like, how are you going to react,
Fucking pissed, too. Yeah. I'd be running for my gun, like, It's weird.
How many people did we push towards the enemy because of...
That was another thing that nobody talks about that I've talked to about my friends. Like, when we would work with other units or we'd have guys roll through and I would... Even as a young... just dumb asshole Marine, I never was disrespectful to people that I felt that were just people. Even if they were staring, the looks that you get, like, oh, that motherfucker's killed Americans, like, that dude wants us dead. Yeah. There was a few cases, like, when you knew, I don't know if you used the BAT system where you'd scan feet. Okay, so, they'd pop up and you're like, oh, motherfucker, we got you. You know, like, then the switch is flipped. But, like, we did so many vehicle checks and so many I mean, how many millions of homes, right? Yeah. I was never the guy that just wanted to just disrespect them because of who they are. Like, and honestly, even as a younger adult, when people were like, oh, fuck Iraqis, fuck all, it's like,
let's blow them all up.
Yeah, kill them all. Like, I never fell into that mindset because I'm like, why? Like, there's women and children running around. They have no idea what's even going on. Like, you can't relate and sum all of them up into one demographic. Granted, I mean, the numbers of insurgents and the bad guys over there are quite a lot, and they're coming in from different countries all around them. But it's like, if this person's not showing me disrespect, why am I going to
be disrespectful back? Yeah.
But they would see that. I saw it so much where just the way you're grabbing and treating and handling people. Like, God, we are not hearts and minds any of this. We are like, and it almost became a joke. Like, how many insurgents did we build? And then, like, the kids, fucking with kids. I had Marines that would joke around and do stupid shit. And it's like, God, dude, we are not helping this situation at all. We're just creating job security if we keep fucking with these people over here. It's just, it's a weird situation when you look at it from, like, looking back on it now.
Yeah. But and of course the way we pulled out too, it's like, fuck.
That's it. That's an interesting one. The way that was done. And I mean, granted, like
it had to end at some point, but
I feel, but how? How do we dissolve a 20-year war? I mean, Afghans been at war from the existence, right? I mean, they were fighting Genghis Khan over there, and
what's his name? Oh God, Can't remember. Yeah, there's a castle over there too, over by where we were on our second deployment, and it was it's the guy that they fought, and he figured, he's like, well, I can't beat him, so I might as well just join him, and he built a fucking castle in the middle of the Afghanistan. Who the fuck was it? Something great.
I don't know that one.
God damn it! I'll have to look it up.
Yeah,
but it was a cool story. But
it's interesting, you know. It's a whole scenario, and then the way that we. But I felt the best scenario, and obviously I'm not some general in the military. I felt that Afghan was just going to have to become like a permanent duty station, like Guam or Guadalcanal, or not Guadalcanal, Guam, Okinawa. Like, I mean, how are you at war for that long, and then all of a sudden just pull out?
Just leave it.
It would showed exactly what would happen, and I mean, within hours, Taliban's already back and running the country again. I mean, that shows you how resilient these people are. That they've been at war for thousands of years. Their great-grandfathers were fighting people. Now, generations later, they're still defending their land. And the second the greatest military force in the world pulls out, the Taliban have the country within hours. Yeah. That shows you how
flying
deep.
Our Blackhawks and shit. How the fuck are they flying the Blackhawks? The motherfuckers knew how to fly back. I was like, what?
You can't read for fuck, but you can get in a Black Hawk and fly it. Like,
that's
you're
wild.
Tossing people out of helicopters, and then the next day, like, it's insane. It's insane. These people.
Yeah, you're right. Resilient motherfuckers.
They're rooted, man. They're rooted. So that's goes back to what I was saying. Like, I feel like it had to have been a permanent duty station where we just have to have stations there. And but then it's like, at what cost? Like, is it even worth it? You know, the war is just an interesting thing, you know. And now I look at what's going on around the world, and it's like,
it scares me.
It scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, and especially because when you look at Iraq and Afghanistan, it was a different war because it wasn't force on force. So you didn't quite know who the enemy was. Mm-hmm. The next conflict we get into is going to be a conflict like we haven't been in before.
Yeah.
Well, in years, right? Since World War II. Like, force on force is a different beast. And I know I'm talking to buddies who are still in, and they're talking about their training and what they're doing and how the training has evolved. And yeah, they're actively training for force on force type efforts.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
The battlefield has changed so much in the last 2 years, 3 years. Yeah. I never thought we would be fighting trench warfare again.
Right, like what's going over
in
Ukraine, and
the fact that we're in trench warfare. You're turning a corner and you're point blank with your enemy, and you're damn near hand-to-hand combat with these guys in these little fighting holes. And then now you want to talk about PTSD? Fucking drones chasing you.
Yeah,
you're sitting in a little bunker cooking your lunch, and all of a sudden, thump, and a drone just
dropping a grenade in there
in the hatch of a grenade.
Wild.
This is one of those things. I've had a couple of conversations with dads that served, right? Like, you know, our generation guys that now have sons that are at that age that are thinking about joining. Not in a million fucking years would I send my kid to the military right now. Yeah. Not in a million years. Not for these wars. I'll say it. You think you raise your son and he goes over and gets taken out by a drone? Some pussy coward shit that just they're watching you in office just laughing as they're flying a drone around your kid. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's a weird time. And like I've talked to some vets and they're just like, oh yeah, I can't wait for my son to join. And I'm like, they're gonna go and I'm like, for what? We were lied to well enough, right? I feel like. Yeah. They pitched the story, there's weapons of mass destructions, 9/11, all this stuff. And we get there and it's like when I joined because we got attacked on our soil and we have to defend that's the patriotism that we were sold, right? Yeah. Now it's like, for what?
Right.
For some rich elitist to go and put you in some foreign country that we do not need to be there, that it could have all been dissolved, but we got to make money. War makes money, you know. War makes billionaires. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we're missing now too, though, is like you look at World War II when all these kids were joining under the age of 18. They were lying about their age, getting in. But it's like, why did that happen? I mean, well, we had the Nazis, and they were trying to take over the world, and then we had Pearl Harbor, right? So there was that sense of patriotism, and everybody wanted to go fight. I don't know. We'll see what happens. You know, it's going to be an interesting time.
It is going to be an interesting time, and it's kind of scary. You know,
Yeah, it's very scary.
what's going to happen to be able to create that patriotism again? And that's what people don't understand. And I was kind of talking to my wife about it recently, and because I saw some poll how like the military they can't recruit anybody
No,
right now.
dude, I talked to, we had an event a couple weeks ago, and the recruiter guy, he was young lieutenant, walked up to my booth and was talking to me, and I was like, so how are numbers? And he's like, oh, numbers are down, dude. He's like, they just increased their sign-on bonus to like $90,000.
What?
I was
Okay,
like,
yeah,
God
I'd sign
damn.
for that,
And,
yeah.
right. And he's like, we still can't get people to sign up. I was like, you're fucking kidding me. He's like, yeah, you want to rejoin? I was like,
Not in a million
I
years.
was like, dude, I'm 46 years old. I was like, what's the age limit? He's like, 35. He's like, we can get you. I was like, dude, I'm 46 years old. He's like, oh shit.
90 grand ain't worth the military
No.
at this stage of my life. Now, as some kid, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but I guess they still can't. They're still not pulling in numbers.
So, like, what's it going to take? You know,
Yeah.
another 9/11, another something on our own soil, and to wake people up again and like motivate kids to defend this country, because it's not happening now.
Yeah.
It is not happening. I mean, I saw these guys were talking about. They can't. None of these kids. They have no drive, no motivation. They don't want to do anything. It's like, are we going to have to go to like some of these other countries where you have to serve 2 years mandatory because our numbers are going to be that
Right.
low? You know, it's ironic to me because, you know, you have this whole generation of, you know, peace and love, and they all want to protest everything, and they're anti-war, but it's like they're about to all get drafted.
Yeah,
You know,
and
some shit goes down.
We talked about that. I was talking to my buddy about this the other day because he was talking about the downfall of man and when men changed, and you know, and there's a lot of turmoil happening in our society today. People arguing over what gender they are, what bathroom to use, stuff like that, and it's disgusting. But I do have confidence in this next generation that, you know, when something does happen, that they will step up to the call. But I think you're right. It's going to take. There's going to have to be something massive to get us back to where we were.
But at the same time, like I think about it, like would I have joined if 9/11 didn't happen? I was looking at the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
I hate to admit it, because there's two stations.
When did you join?
2004, right at the end of 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, and I had 2 Coast Guard stations, 30 minutes in each direction of my house when I grew up, and those guys don't do fuck all, you know. And I saw that, and they're like, I'd talk to them all, and they'd be like, man, we just drive hovercrafts around, play Xbox all winter. Like, we don't do shit up here. Everything's frozen.
Bastards.
They're like, this is a hardship duty station. Nobody wants to get stationed on the Canadian border. Like, they all want Miami and California, all the, you know, the nice. And I was like, they're like, you can get it. If you request this, you're getting it. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I'll just stay at home, be in the Coast
Play
Guard,
video
bank
games.
money, and play video games. And then the war broke out, and that's when I was like, I have to. Like, I don't know what it was, man. It was just, I'll never forget the moment that I knew I was joining the military. I was on vacation with my girlfriend at the time, and we were watching the news, and the news reporter at the news station had called into a reporter in Iraq, and it was just a satellite phone call, so you couldn't see anything, but you could just hear the news reporter. And I don't know where he was, but he was on the phone, and a firefight breaks out on this news report. And I didn't know what it was at the time or what machine gun it was, but you can hear this machine gun just like hooking and jabbing, and you could hear the brass falling and the links falling. Like now I knew it was inside of a Humvee. You know that noise. And then obviously it ended up being a Mod Deuce. Like once I learned, and that ended up being one of my babies, you know, that I was an instructor for. But you know, I heard the screaming in the back and like shifting fire, and they're just pure chaos, and the machine guns going, and this news reporter's like yelling in the sat phone, and I mean, dude, I get goosebumps thinking about it, and I'll never forget. And I was like,
That was the moment.
I have to do that. Like, I have to do that. Like, that's that. And you know, I was supposed to be going off that fall to play college ball, and I had all these plans and all that
Baseball?
shit. Football.
Football. All right.
And so, you know, and I had a lot of schools I was looking at, and I went home and I got back from that vacation. And I told my dad, I was like, I'm joining the Marine Corps, and he's like, you better go unjoin the Marine Corps. You got college ball this fall. And I was like, I'm out. And so
No shit.
yeah, I waited and I graduated, and then I dipped. And so and I didn't know what any of it was. And then obviously I didn't go grunt. I went 1833, which is amphibious assault vehicles, which is what separates us from the Army. is
Yeah.
where amphibious army's not, right?
Right.
Technically. So they actually just did away with our MOS. They don't even exist anymore. So I'm in an obsolete. My job in the military does not exist. They did
No
away with
kidding.
us. Yeah. So they used assault for the sea to land, all the amphibious assaults and
That'd be badass.
yeah, from ship to shore. It was the worst job I've ever had. It was absolutely horrible. I fucking hated my life for 8 years. That's the reason I got out. I mean, that's why everybody gets out of that job. It's just the ones that stay in are just horrible people. No offense to any of the trackers, I love y'all, but they all know what I'm talking about. It's just one of those MOSs. It's just the dead, dying, and it's probably a good thing it went away. But it's weird, knowing they changed the vehicle. They're instead of being a tracked vehicle now, it's all wheeled, and they got bigger guns. But yeah, so like once I went into there and I learned the 50, and and this is another one of those like, oh shit. When I went to the very first time on the range, when I heard that Ma Deuce go off
Yeah.
and I heard the brass fall, I was like,
That's the sound.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Like it wasn't I don't imagine it's a different sound inside of an Amtrak, but a Humvee, like it's a very distinct, you know that sound. And
You
so
get that echoey, tinny.
I started putting pieces together and I was like, holy shit, this was the gun that made me join the military, was the Ma Deuce 50 cal. Yeah.
The
So
butterfly trigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it was weird, but like now I look back at it, and because people ask me all the time, like, would you let your daughter join? I'm like, fuck, I would be devastated if my kids came to me and wanted to join the military. Like, I'll be honest, I'll say it. Like, I know a lot of these dudes are like, oh, proud dad, I want my kids to serve. Like, right now under this administration, what's going on? No way. It's a tough one, but at the same time, like, you have that pride for your country, but it's like, for what? I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Sacrifice.
I like to ask dads that have sons that are at that age, like, and most of them are like, oh hell yeah, man, I want my kids to join, and I can't fathom it. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's hard for me. I don't know, but I look at things like deeper, like why are we there? Do we need to be there? What's the point? Who's making money off of this?
Yeah. Halliburton, Raytheon.
BlackRock, everybody, not us, making my chump
Right.
change a year, putting our life on the line.
Dude.
Anyways, man, yeah. So it's crazy times. I don't know how we're gonna get the numbers for the military.
But you're right. Like if we don't, then do they enforce a draft? And see, about the what was it? The Communist Party put out. God damn, what do you call that? Manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that back in the? Yeah, so you have to read this. So the Communist Party put out a manifesto. I think it was back in like the 50s or 60s.
Okay.
And they put out this manifesto of how they were going to take over the U.S. without ever firing a shot. You never heard about this? No shit. All right, so
You have to send this
it's
to me.
eerily looking over it now. But it was back in the 50s. They said, we'll take over America without ever firing a shot. The way we're going to do it is we will infiltrate their media. We will basically create divide within the country to where there'll be so much conflict that internally that we will be broken as a society and that they would be able to take us over. And now you look back on that manifesto
It's
and
happening.
it's like, holy fuck. Like, and there was the conspiracy theory about COVID being concocted in a Wuhan lab, right? But, and in my mind, it's like, could that have happened? Like, did they do this to knowing that like the face mask would cause such distension within our society that people
Something so simple.
something so simple? And it's like, well, fuck, because everything that they've talked about, and with us bringing out social media, we made it so easy for them to infiltrate our social media and take over, just brainwash us.
They're in your home.
If they are, and so I look at that, I'm like, man, it's crazy because everything that they documented in that manifesto, while it took decades, like, I think they're doing it. It's crazy.
It's a really weird stage we're at right now, and I don't know where it goes from here. You know, and it sucks for me because obviously us and deploying and defending our country and feeding and all that. I look back at it now. It's like what's next? Like where do we go? At least we, like I said a little bit ago, like we had the pride, we had the story that we were following. Now with this divide in this country, it's like, how do we fix this? Because we can't talk anymore. You can't sit down and have a conversation with somebody that doesn't agree with you. It's instant. I mean, families have separated over this. I know a husband and wife that got divorced because of their political beliefs. They couldn't.
Really?
I'm like,
Yeah, you can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Everybody's so emotional and uptight with everything.
I know a company that before this division was pushed so hard, I mean, think about when we were growing up. Nobody cared if you were a liberal. Nobody cared if you were left
No.
or right. And then now it's like, I'm not going to hire them because of their belief. It's like, holy shit, like that's where we're at. But how do we stop and start fixing this? And it's like, as long as the media is the way it is, as long as the social is the way it is, like, it's just going to keep driving that wedge deeper and deeper. And it's like, till what? Till we go back to like what, civil war,
Right.
martial laws implement. I mean, where do we go? I mean, look at January 6th and what a shit show that was, and like all the stuff that's coming out about it. What's this next election going to do? Is this going to be the one, or do we have to go through 3 or 4 more elections, living how we're living until the whole country? I mean, do we have to hit absolute rock bottom as a country?
Yeah.
But by that point, I mean, we have no military.
We're destabilized. Yep.
We're an easy target. You know, it's like our borders are wide open. How many people are coming across right now that have bad intentions? You mean to tell me all these military-age males are coming here for asylum or whatever?
Oh my God.
You know, so it's
Did you see that video of the Syrian guys coming over, and they're all in like 511 tactical gear?
Oh my God.
I'll send you that video. I watched it, and the guy even asked them, and only one of them speaks English. He's like, "Where are you coming from?" They're like, Syria. He's like, "Why do you come to America?" And they kind of like look at one another, and they're like, "You want a better life." And it's like, dude, they look like some dudes that are gonna tear some shit up, you know? And they're all decked out in 511 tactical gear. It's like, that gear's expensive, bro. Like, who's funding you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's scary. I don't know.
It's crazy times. So, anyways, back to you.
Yeah, sorry, I get animated.
No, for sure. So after your deployments, I mean, he did the 2 to Afghan. I mean, how long were you there for?
In Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm. How long were your pumps?
The first one was the longest because I elected to stay behind and rip out the new guys. So
Really?
I think it was like 14, 15 months.
That's a long time.
Yeah, you get your break and, your R&R break halfway
How
through.
is that? Because like as
That
Marines,
sucks.
it's
I
not a
hated it.
thing.
I hated it. It
you
made
ha-
it worse because you literally come to Afghanistan and you're there for 6 months and they're like, okay, it's your time for R&R. You fly home, you're home for a week, and then you get thrown right back into the mix.
Do you feel that hurts your mental stage
It messes with you, yeah.
worse? Because
it does, because like you're so excited to get home and see my daughter and be with my wife, and you get that short stint, and then you're like, fuck, I have to
so you just
go
get a little
back.
taste, and then it's ripped right from you again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if you ever experienced it, but like my first deployment, I reached a point where I didn't think I was coming back. I don't know
Why?
you just, because everything compounds and happens, so you're getting rocketed every day, you're hitting IEDs. We had 5 Purple Hearts within our unit, 5 Purple Hearts, and one was from a direct rocket that was fired out into us while we were on patrol, and fucked up one of my good buddies pretty good. He had to
Really?
be sent back, and you're like, fuck, like, you just kind of get to this point, like, there's only so many times I can go out that I can get lucky.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah. It's like, if we keep going out at the rate we're going out, like, I'm not coming back at some point. And it kind of like that manifests in your head, and you get to this point where, and plus you're over there for so fucking long. For me, why I elected to stay was because then it's like you accept it, and this is life. I don't know if you experienced that, but when you come back from Afghanistan and you're kind of like, you're not war-torn, really, but everything seems unreal.
For sure.
Like, I remember coming back from my first deployment, and we're in the airport. You fly into, what is that? Bangor, Maine. Land in Bangor, Maine. First touch of American soil, and I get off the plane. I'm with this other dude from another unit. We were just, like, met each other, and we were hanging out. And we walk in, and you see people like on their laptops in the coffee shop, and another person that got their lattes, and people are watching cartoons on TV and laughing. And I was just sitting there, and he had deployed multiple times. This was my first deployment. He must have saw the look on my face, and he's like, "Yeah, I know, it's weird, huh? Like, life just continued on without us." And I was like, that's a perfect way to put it. Like, nobody knows what's going on over there, what life is like, and everybody's here in their comfortable bubble, just going on about their business.
And they have no idea what war's going on, and you just survived and
Yeah,
hook and
it was
jabbing
weird.
for 14 months.
That was the weirdest feeling I'd ever felt. And yeah, like I said, he saw the look on my face, and he phrased it perfectly for me. I was like, yes, like, it's fucked up. But But yeah, so that was my longest tour. And
14
then,
months, huh? That's, God, that's the one thing I'm fortunate about the Marines, man. We never, you're talking 6, 8 months. We did 10 and a half. We got extended twice on ours, on our second deployment. I think we got extended on both deployments, but our second one, I think we did 10 and a half months. But it's weird when you come back. And what's weird for us as Marines, we did a MU, the Marine Corps Expeditionary Unit, so we took naval ships from Pendleton to Kuwait and then Kuwait into Iraq. That's how we got to Iraq.
How long was that?
It takes several weeks. I think it was about a month and a half, 2 months we were at sea.
Oh, my God.
But, you know, you're hitting Hawaii, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, Australia. So you're stopping at different countries. A lot of guys go to the Philippines and Thailand. You know, you hit all these.
Yeah, that'd be badass.
So you party like a rock star.
Yeah.
And then, the next day you wake up and then there's the coast of Kuwait. And then, you know, you splash your vehicles off the back.
Wait, Kuwait's on a coast?
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. That's Kuwait. So we push into Kuwait, and then, you know, you're there for a few days trying to get acclimated. It's a million fucking degrees, and it's the brightest, just the light was, you'd walk out of somewhere and you're like, God, like you couldn't, it just blinded you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we were fortunate enough to show up end of summer. So both my deployments in Iraq were fall, winter, spring. We're out of there. So I got to dodge all the hot.
Good.
But we were there for the cold because, dude, it was miserably cold.
In Iraq it is?
In Iraq, dude, our water bottles would be like frozen in the morning when we would wake up. I remember, I got to have one of my buddies on. Him and I sat in a fighting hole one night. I don't even know if it was a fighting hole. It was just a fucking hole in the ground. Like, we didn't dig it. It was just there. We had some asshole staff sergeant. This guy, fucking Lochner was his name. I mean, he was a good dude, but he points at me and then my buddy Jeff, and he's like, "You guys need to do ground security for tonight." And I'm like, "Ground security? Like, I fucking live in a vehicle. Like, I'm not a grunt. I'm an Amtracker. Like, this is my security. It was a 50 cal in the Mark 19." Anyways, he made us go sit in this because there was like this factory that we had intel that they were making bombs and suicide, whatever. So we surround this thing at night, and then we had to have ground security, and I got voluntold. I'll never forget. I thought this is one of those times where I was like, we're going to die. It was so cold, and we had like our little sleeping bag.
Your whoopee bag.
I got in, we put both sleeping bags in each other, and we both got in one sleeping bag and held each other all night. 100%. I'll have this guy on the podcast. Like, sitting there like, I love you, man. I love you, too. Like, as we thought we were going to freeze to death. Because it's a stupid troop. Like, you can't go back to staff sergeant and be like, "Hey, we're cold. Like, we're freezing to death out here. We're willing to just die in this fucking hole." And I'll never forget. We just went to sleep. Like, the wind,
holding each other.
The wind was blowing so hard. Like, you couldn't even like poke your head up out of the hole because you're getting sandblasted. So we're literally just tucked down in a hole in the ground. I'll never forget the next morning, like opening my eye and we're just covered in dust and I like poke my head out. We're freezing and nobody's up. Everyone's passed the fuck out thinking that we're on security for them. Like, and they left us all night. Like, I've never done an all-night post. Usually you rotate and you get relieved
every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours, 3 hours. Nobody relieved us. We sat and slept in the sleeping bags with my buddy the whole night. And it was so miserable, man. It was miserable. And so, yeah. But thank God. I mean, it was... And, you know, you'd wake up in the morning, I mean, your water bottle was just frozen. I mean, it was so cold, and they didn't prep us for any of this, the temps.
So you didn't have cold gear, cold weather gear?
Fuck no. Fuck. They give us flight suits that are paper thin. We ended up, one of our vehicles went down. We're in Al Asad Air Force Base. We went back, towed the vehicle back, and we were working on it. And the Army had their supply lot next to the motor T lot. And I watched these supply guys one day go over and they opened up these giant boxes, cardboard boxes, and they started pulling out black fleeces. I was like, oh, you messed up. And so I went to my gunny, which I had one of those gunnies that was just like this old school hardcore, like he's going to punch you in the face before he ever did paperwork. And if he did, he carried around this giant mug and a cigarette. And if he didn't have both, you didn't fuck with this dude. Gunny Barton was his name. I know there's some dudes that are going to watch this. They're going to be like, oh, hell yeah. Dude was old school Gunny. And I go to him. I was like, hey, Gunny, can I acquire us some fleeces? And he's like, I don't give a fuck. Like one of those, like old school raspy voices. I'm like, cool, got the green light.
Cool. Okay.
So we'd work on our vehicles. We'd be on like patrol or whatever during the day, and then at night we'd have to work on our vehicles all night. And so we're over there one night, and I was like, "Hey, you guys got to watch." And it was all lit up, and I freaking I cut a hole in the back fence, and I snuck in there, and we started just. And they
Tactically acquiring.
They had the sizes all written on the outside of these boxes, so we're just we ripped this fence open, and we're just chucking boxes of these black fleeces, and then we threw them in the back of a Humvee and dipped over to where we were living in Camp City or Tent City at the time, which is over by the flight line. So nobody really messes with you over there. It's just the guys that are coming and going. They're not like the permanent personnel on the base. So we like snuck these things in and we divvied them out really quick, and we rolled. And it was like a rule that we could not wear them at Al-Assad. And so on our vehicles we have it's to do like a twist wire when you'd say, like a safety pin on like a 50 cal or the 40 when you'd have certain pins, and then you'd have to wire it, that twist wire on it. Well, we had the tool for it, so we went back through and twist wired the fence shut so it didn't look like it was wide open like how we fucking left it. And so they had no idea. So that I still have my fleece to this day. It's an Army. It's like property of U.S. Army or whatever on these tags, and we saved. Everybody still has theirs. I was just with a couple of my buddies, and we were talking about it. Like, I still have my fleece. And so but we had
hang it up on your wall as a trophy.
We had to steal these fleeces, and it was so miserable. Like I kind of
bad. Like, but Marines, they never really had a lot of money.
We get it from you guys.
Yeah,
it's a hand-me-down army shit is what we get.
Yeah.
I was telling my wife, I was kind of joking about it, that because I know it's nothing to joke about. I was like, I'm 100% dying of fucking lung cancer or something, and she's like, don't ever say that. And she's like, why? And I was like, it was so cold. One of my best friends and I, we had to stand post every night in this. We were running a vehicle control point outside of a city. Mm-hmm. And there was like this berm. Imagine like this 50-foot anthill is what it looked like. And we built a post on the top of it that overlooked just the flat desert. It was just this random mound of dirt that overlooked everything. It was weird. And we would sit on there, and we built this whole entire bunker up on the top of this thing. We had to fill every sandbag. Everything was all done by daisy chaining sandbags at the top, right? We would sit up there, and it was so cold. I'm talking the wind would be ripping. We'd be in our fleeces, like tucked into a corner in this little hut at the top of this hill. We would get an ammo can, and we would fill it with diesel and mix it till it was like a paste. And we would light it, and then we'd put a poncho over the both of us, and we would hold each other with the ammo cans in the middle of us, and it had
just
this little
in
flame.
Those fumes.
The next day, like, you do your shift and you'd get relieved and you'd go, and the next day you'd wake up and it was just black soot, and like you'd cough and like this lump of black, you'd blow your nose, just pure black. I mean, you thought you were gonna freeze. It was that cold. We froze in Iraq, which I talked to guys and they're like, you can only strip so much clothes off. Like, obviously the cold wouldn't have been as bad if we were prepared for it.
Yeah.
They ended up eventually getting us like this little heater system. It was really weird. You got a 5-gallon diesel can, and it had a little hose that came out of it and hooked to like this, almost like a jet propulsion heater. It was weird. You had to prime it, do all this crazy shit, and
Did
so
it heat the place up though?
Holy shit, bro! You'd get it going. It was like a wood stove. I mean, the tube, the exhaust tube that we had going out the window, it would just be glowing red. If you had it just right, you'd be in there in like a t-shirt and shorts. Because you don't have windows. You're on the top of a hill. It's blowing a million miles an hour in the middle of Iraq in the wintertime. So yeah, it would be cold. But we'd put like ponchos in the. Nobody ever watched a motherfucking thing from that. Nobody watched anything. You'd go up there, relieve your. Because the staff never went up there because you had to climb up this hill, and it was like a pain in the ass. So nobody ever went up there except for whoever was on watch. And you'd go up there, and everyone would be assed out in the middle of the night. Like, nobody was doing shit up there. It was just fucking miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable. But I would take the winter over the summer, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, Kuwait's the hottest I've ever been.
It's miserable.
It's fucking gross.
It's like, I explained Kuwait, at least when we were there, was like living in a blow dryer.
Yeah. I didn't even know the world could get that hot. Like, I remember I looked at the thermometer. I think it was like 127 or something.
On an average day.
What the fuck? And I wouldn't even eat because you'd go into Kuwait, and I would just stay in that because they had the air-conditioned tents, and they'd be like, chow time. And I was like, dude, that's like fucking 1,600 meters that way, bro. I'm staying right here.
You're drenched when you get the chow.
I was like, I'm not moving. Yeah, fuck that place.
You know it's hot when you walk out of a porta shitter. It's 120 degrees outside. You walk out and you're like, oh. You know, it feels
It's
nice.
cooler outside than in the porta shitter. Yeah.
You know, but
Oh,
Kuwait, yeah,
man.
that's how I explain Kuwait is like living in a blow dryer, just hot blow dryer tight temps with
Yeah.
just wind, and it's so bright in Kuwait. Kuwait was a fascinating place because obviously, like, as a young kid, you know, you're okay, now we're in the Middle East, it's getting real, and you get there and you're like, oh God, like, this place sucks already, and this isn't even Iraq. Like,
Right.
this sucks already. And I know some people are like, "Oh, Kuwait was the greatest place," and we were at Kuwaiti Naval Base, which was nice. I mean, they were running 5Ks and shit. I ran a 5K on my way home, and I was getting lapped by old ladies, like old naval women. Like,
No shit.
oh, so embarrassing. You want to talk about degrading? Coming back from Iraq,
Yeah.
because you know we have to do our agricultural washdowns in our vehicles, which you have to white glove. I mean, we strip our whole entire vehicles down, and
Agricultural white gloves.
So we call them the egg washes. So before you leave Kuwait and get back on the ships, you have to clean our vehicles. I'm talking like white glove inspection. So you strip everything out of your vehicle and you spend like a week and a half to 2 weeks scrubbing your vehicles out.
Oh, fuck that.
All day, all night, like nonstop, dude. It sucks. Like when I say strip the vehicle down, if it is bolted, if it's
It had to come
welded,
out.
it stayed. If it was bolted, it came out, and you have your whole vehicle completely disassembled. I mean, I'm
Why?
talking
Why did they do this?
who fucking
Just 'cause it's
knows?
military.
Because some old asshole sitting in office like, we need to clean these because we can't have dirt coming back. Like, you know, so you pull everything out of the back of your vehicle and you spend
that.
a solid, when I say a solid week, not like a couple hours a day, like sun up to sundown. You're getting dressed, you're putting on your soaking wet boots, and then you're just like walking, and then you start the pressure washer up, and you're pressure washing all day.
Fuck that.
Scrubbing shit, and then you're like, hey, Staff Sergeant, I think we're clean. They go in there and they put their hand down in the engine underneath, and they come out and they're like, nope, there's grease. You're like, you can't physically clean that, and nope, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so we spend all that time doing that, and bro, you want to talk about like, just get me out of here.
See, it's like, if we were deployment, which it's a toss up because like if you're on deployment, you're away from your wife, your kids, your loved ones. But deployment's where I thrived, and that's like I love deployments. I love going out and rucking up and down mountains and shit. And garrison is what killed me.
Oh,
Garrison
for
life.
sure.
I was like, I can't deal with this. That's the reason I got out.
Same. If I could have stayed deployed, I tried to re-enlist, and then
Yeah.
I volunteered to jump on the next unit that was coming.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't allow that, and then I was trying to re-enlist at that time, and they weren't having it. They were just like, "Oh, well, wait till you get back," and then I ended up not. But yeah, I loved it. If I could have just stayed in and stayed overseas, I probably would have careered it. And then, but being back at the flagpole, I am not a garrison Marine.
No.
I'm not a garrison
It's
Marine.
too, like the dumb shit that they would have
The
you
games
do. And, yep.
and the staying at work until the captain's
Yeah.
here, we can't leave.
Dude, they'd make you sit down and they'd be like, go down in the bay and clean your weapons. Formation 17:30. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's like, are you fucking serious? Like, let us at least go to the gym. Let us fucking.
So I have to stay here all day till 5, 6 o'clock at night, and then you'll be like,
Clean.
all right, you guys can go. Why the fuck did I just sit here for
Right.
10 hours
And do nothing.
and do nothing?
Mentally fucks with you.
Yeah, that it really does, and that's what killed. And I feel like right now that's where all it, because I have buddies that are retiring at that stage, and like these kids get in trouble for the dumbest shit. And I was like, they're not doing anything.
Right. Engage them. Give them some training to
You
go
have
do.
to.
Or, yeah.
Which I would be interested to see the training, but yeah, it's interesting times, man. Very interesting times in the military to look back, like
Yeah.
from our era to now, and it's like I have, like I said, my buddies that are retiring, they're like, they're like, I'm just doing my time. I'm shutting up. I close my door in my office, like
Getting the fuck out.
getting out. And they're like,
Collect my paycheck.
and now those kids, they know their rights, and they know the. Because talking to a chaplain and shit is when I was younger, you didn't talk to a chaplain.
Right.
You didn't request.
Dude, and that fed into the whole, the stigma, and I feel like a reason why there's so much veteran suicide because like if you want to go to mental health or like you said, a chaplain or anything, it was, you couldn't be
Nope.
that guy.
No.
You're gonna be fucking red listed in the unit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, why are you talking to the chaplain? You don't talk to the chaplain. You gotta come through me first. Well, I don't want to talk to you first, But now these kids, like when they're like, I know my rights and I know this. And it's like, oh shit, like good luck. That's what I was on my way out.
Yeah.
And now it's like you say one thing that we used to get away with, or what our seniors used to get away with us, and now it's like, oh, you're done. Like you're fried. They listen to that kid, and any allegations against you, like,
Yeah.
good luck. Different times in the military. It's going to come back around soon. It'll get back to the war fighting stage, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So after you did your 2 deployments,
Yeah.
headed home.
Mm-hmm.
How was that transitioning back?
It was good, man. I guess. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Weren't in war anymore.
dude, yeah, I wasn't at war, and when I decided to get out, that's the other thing. It's kind of a shame, like in the military, like you can be, like I was considered high speed, I was fast tracked, and like even my sergeant major he wouldn't even call me Clip, like he wouldn't even call me sergeant. Like I was his boy, and you know, it's like he had all these good things going for me, and the minute I decided I was done, it's like that switch flipped, and I even got called up to the sergeant major's office, and you know, I walked in the room, and I remember he was like, Sergeant Clip, man, they're telling me you're trying to get out. You ain't going to re-up? Like, what's going on, man? You know, he's this short, little, angry black guy. And I was like, yeah, Sergeant Major, I'm done, you know, and we both had smiles on our face, and I saw his smile, like, leave. And he was like, oh, okay, you don't want to serve your country no more, huh? You don't want to go out there and do the good thing. You don't want to set an example. He's like, that's fine, that's fine. He's like, what do I need to do? Do I need to, I forget what the duty was, not S2. But basically, he threatened to put me on a desk until, you know, I served out the rest of my time. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, that's it. Like, you're their boy as long as you're willing to give. But the minute that you want to take care of yourself, it's like,
nope,
you're shunned. And so it is what it is. But, yeah, I got out because it wears your body down. And I just knew I wanted to be here in Boise. Out of all the places I lived, my previous career, like I said, I traveled with them. And I had a stint here in Boise, and I knew that's where I wanted to be, so we just packed up our shit and moved back here. And
were you married still at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, you know, I got a corporate job, and I realized real quick that I hated it. Even though, again, it's like I did very good. I took this sales job, and I crushed it, and I kept getting promoted. But it's like, you ever seen the movie Office Space?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's like, dude, I was half-assing everything. I kept getting promoted, and I was like, what the fuck's going on, you know? Because I was a good sales guy. But I knew that I needed to do something different to give me purpose, because that's the thing that mind fucks you, is the minute you take off your boots and you hang up your combat uniform, it's like, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got this career over here, but I'm just selling computers, and I own these accounts that we sell computers to. It's like, I'm not making a difference. And that's when I decided to start UXO Supplements, and it kind of served 2 purposes to me. Number one, while I was in, I had multiple buddies take their own life, and so I knew that I wanted to form a business that could help give back. Right? So for me, like, I have PTSD, I have anxiety, and the VA is quick to throw medication at you to try and fix everything. And I always found that most of it just made me worse off. So for me, it's like getting in the gym, releasing the endorphins that way. And so I wanted to create a product that would help encourage other people to get in the gym and find a healthier lifestyle, and then also give back to, you know, veteran-focused nonprofit organizations that gave me purpose going forward. Like, okay, I'm still making a difference. I still have a purpose. And, yeah, that was the formation of UXO Supplements.
Let's dig into the UXO Supplements.
Yeah.
I feel, and this isn't at you, because I actually have some of your subs before we even met.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I picked them up, and which is funny, because I saw it and it had, you know, veteran-owned and all that on. I was like, oh, this is cool. I actually still have a jar of it. And so the supplement world, let's dig into this.
Okay.
The supplement world is I feel, as somebody, I used to be obviously way bigger into the fitness industry and getting all back into it now. It's such a crazy world. I feel like it's
it is.
You see,
good and bad.
For sure. And so what separates in the supplement, if I'm looking, what separates the good and the bad?
You know, and we've kind of changed, like, our marketing tactics, because I used to push, like, you know, our stuff's quality, you know, and go into, like, how we use the trademarked ingredients that have all the testing done. But see, to the general consumer, they don't care. They
Why
want a
is
product
that? I feel
works.
like in the fitness world, you're wanting to ingest
Yeah, you want high quality.
high quality
for
supplements.
the most part, people don't, and I think that's it. It falls on the education of the customer.
Yep.
People don't understand when they look at an ingredient. Like, I look at an ingredients panel, I can break down everything. I know what it does. I know the proper dosing of it, because this has been the last 12 years of my life. And I'm just a freak with this shit, and I live in the white pages, and I know about the ingredients and how they work. But the average consumer, so that's why it's like, okay, we would pitch our product that we sell it as a premium, and here's why, because it has the trademarked ingredients. So we do all the third-party testing, so it's safe for drug-tested athletes, it's safe for military, first responders, you know. And we go into the studies on the trademarked ingredients that run more like a trademarked ingredient. Like if you were to look at a product side by side, right? And let's say, even though this ingredient I don't really buy into, but you have beta-alanine, which is the generic version, and you have carnosine over here, which is the trademark version. A lot of people aren't aware that the beta-alanine, the cheaper, the more generic ingredient, usually there's nothing to say, okay, this ingredient is standardized. That you know that with beta-alanine, if I buy 3.2 grams of beta-alanine, it's going to be 3.2 grams of beta-alanine. There have been tests done on generic ingredients, and sometimes the purities come back at like 5%.
Really?
Where a trademarked ingredient, yes, you pay up to 15 times more for that ingredient, which is going to make the product more expensive, but every trademark lot I buy comes with a certificate of analysis showing that it has to be over 98% pure. Right, so that's why we always opt and go for trademarked ingredients over the generic counterparts, and that does make our product more expensive, and we do the additional testing. But slowly, I've realized that people don't care. So now it's like we focus more on, rather than preaching about, look at our ingredients and stuff like that, now it's like, all right, look at our mission, look at who we are, here's what the brand stands for.
But the ingredients are staying on track, though?
Ingredients stay on track.
Okay.
Yep, we still do that, but we realize now that it's like...
People don't care.
People don't care. And the formulas aren't the differentiators anymore because of how saturated the market is. So we'll continue to make the quality ingredients and the quality formulas, and that's what puts them at a premium. But now we focus more on the lifestyle and who we are about, and, you know.
How did you even pick this route? I mean, going from military to sales, and then you're like, I'm just going to start a supplement company. Like that's so obviously you were into the fitness world at that time.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is what I mean. 12 years ago, I guess the market was probably pretty nice.
It was, and there was definitely a gap in it that has since filled, but we're still trudging ahead, right? But with me, I never stepped foot in the gym until I was in the military. So that was the first time I ever stepped in. And first time was at Fob Salerno, and my buddies forced me. And I remember we were ordering in pre-workouts from bodybuilding.com. Back then it was like Jack 3D.
Do you remember Jack 3D and then No Explode?
Yep,
those things are straight meth, bro.
Yeah.
Like those things were horrible for you. Yeah. But God, they work so good.
Jack 3D had a combination of ephedrine and 1,3-dimethylane that has since been banned, which is like a stimulant that it's basically an ingredient that's 2 chemical compounds away from being crystal meth. And that's why it got banned.
For sure.
So, but anyways, so we'd order that shit. And we'd get all cracked out and go to the gym, and that's where we released our tension. Like we'd get back off mission, we'd still go to the gym. Like we'd be dead tired, we'd still go to the gym.
Chug some Jack 3D with a Rip It, and you're just crushing the gym for like 3 hours.
Yeah, I remember the Rip Its, man. Yep. And I miss the Rip Its.
Oh God,
best energy drink ever. But yeah, so we'd go to the gym, we'd crush it, and so for me, it was my second deployment, and we were ordering in stuff from bodybuilding.com, and they would start doing health and welfare checks because guys were dying, taking a pre-workout. Like
we had a guy pass.
Yeah, we did too. After this was actually after our second deployment, but it was becoming a thing, and so they'd come in and they inspect your pre-workouts and they'd be like, "Oh, you can't take this." They had their ops ban list, and I felt like, you know, why are they confiscating this stuff? Like I was spending my hard-earned money on this pre-workout, and they're taking it from me. So that's when I really started digging into the ingredients. Like, why is this banned? Like, what's this ingredient doing to me? And I started to learn more about it. And then I started ordering in my just raw ingredients like creatine. At the time, it was arginine. It was the best pump ingredient. It's ineffective now, but I'd mix it with Mio Energy.
Okay, yeah.
It tasted horrible, but at least I knew my shit wasn't going to get confiscated.
So you started making your own.
Yeah, and it was horrible. Yeah, I would order in just raw ingredients to Afghanistan. I'd just mix it there, and then we'd go.
Were you slinging this to buddies and stuff the whole time?
Yeah, I'd have buddies that would come over and be like, "Hey, help me out," and I'd hook them up with scoops of shit. And
really?
Yeah. Oh, it was god awful, but. But yeah, that kind of started it. And then to your point, when we got back, this was wild to me, but I had my buddy Sergeant Aaron Scales, who went to OCS school, Officer Candidate School. And this is a young guy, 27, 28 years old. He was a sergeant, E5, was going to Officer Candidate School, and he took craze back then. It was the pre-workout, and he had to run the 5-mile time track. And Craze was banned too after the fact because it was also loaded with 1.3. And he had cardiac arrest out on the track and died. And I was like, holy fuck. So all these things compounded, and then we after our first deployment, when we came back, they shut down the brigade, and we had to go through resiliency training. Because like within the span of 2 weeks, we had 4 soldiers commit suicide after our first deployment.
God.
In the brigade, so a much bigger scale.
But still, it's a lot.
That is a lot. And so that kind of created our mission. So when I started thinking, like, what am I going to do? What's my purpose? And I was really in tune with, like, I got really ingrained into supplements and just learning about these ingredients, and I love pre-workouts, and I was like, let's fucking do this. And that's the thing, and that, like you said, it's a crazy industry. There's a good side to it and there's a bad side. Mm-hmm. The good and bad side is for anybody who wants to start a business, you can with very small capital, all right? Mm-hmm. And that's a good and bad thing, so
but the marketing that you're going to have to make to put into
right, and
be
then
seen.
You have these labs now that create these white label products, and they're just cheap products. They're like, hey, you can come buy some of our pre-workout, we'll slap your label on it and kick it out there. Those products are garbage. They're underdosed.
Which I feel like is the majority of them. It's just you're just drinking sugar water.
Yeah, and then you have like 100 of the same products out there with a different label on it. Mm-hmm. And I hate those companies. Rocket Labs, there's a couple other ones. So ours is actually, it's our formulas, like we created it. And I've been fortunate enough that I have relationships with some people they're very influential in the industry, mm-hmm. and have mentored me. And like, so we because if you want to do it the right way, it's an investment, right? Like I go to Supply Side West in Las Vegas, and that's where you learn about the new and notable trademarked ingredients that are coming out and all the clinical data behind it. And
is this like a big expo that you go? Okay.
Big expo, and you try and learn about all the new and upcoming stuff, and you just got to try and be ahead of the curve. Like there's multiple ingredients that we were first to market with, like IXOS, which is our prebiotic. It's in our multivitamin. But we were the first people to bring it to market, and now it's like in a bunch of supplement products. Yeah, so it's like you try and, find a way to differentiate.
Yeah.
But like I said, the more I realize it's not really the ingredients and the profiles, we continue to do that. It's more of the story and getting people to buy into what you're about.
That's so
crazy. So we have a new product coming too, and it fits into the storyline. It's going to be launching here in a couple weeks. It's M777.
Okay.
After the howitzer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest dose pre-workout ever made. It comes in a jug that's a little bit smaller than a protein container.
Really?
Yeah.
So my question immediately is, how are you going to blow through all of that before it, I feel like all pre-workouts eventually just become one chunk.
Yep, and there's a lot of ingredients, and we're pretty good with that. There's ingredients out there that are very hydroscopic, and we try to avoid those because they do make it chalky in texture, but those are the ingredients that clump. And I've had that experience too. Like I think Curse, I don't know if you remember that pre-workout had a skull on it, but that one, it's like it would clump up within a week.
You'd open it up. There was something you'd open up, and you squeeze in to try to break up chunks.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so ours, you don't get that with our pre-workout, unless moisture gets in there. If moisture gets into any product, you're bound to have a clump product. But we avoid those hydroscopic ingredients because I personally don't like chunky pre-workout, you know, and we're very picky, even with the ingredients we choose. Like there are probably some ingredients out there that are more effective than what we use in ours, but some ingredients are very acidity, and so they're very bitter. Okay. And so I avoid those ingredients too, because we always promote, like we have some of the best tasting pre-workout out there, and so I know what ingredients to avoid, and to make sure that we have a good quality product that's going to deliver on performance, but also taste good. And
how do you pick flavors for a? Is this? I don't know. I don't want to. You don't have to give me. I don't know if this is like some secret, but I always wonder because you look at the marketing on some of these supplements. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, green sour apple, and then you try it and it tastes like asshole. So it's like, I'm like, how the fuck do these people? Who was the product development that thought this tasted like?
Dude,
fruit punch?
There's some bad ones. I don't know if you follow my TikTok channel, but I do a bunch of reviews, and people will send me their products, and they know that I'm going to be open, honest with them too. So I'll do reviews, and I break down the ingredient panel and flavoring, and some shit gets sent to me, and it's bad.
Really?
It's really
bad. So people are willing to send you.
Yeah, for the most part, I'll tell them like if it's really bad, I probably won't even make the video because I don't want to bash on
How
people.
often does that happen?
It happens, but actually not. It hasn't happened as often. I think people know, like, all right, if my product sucks, I'm not going to send it to
Yeah.
them. So it's very rare. But yeah, there have been multiple products that I just don't end up, and there have been some that I've completely destroyed. You know.
Oh, I'm sure. So
I
how do
always
you
feel
pick
bad doing
flavors?
that.
Do you is it
So
is it a powder? Like how do you
No,
mix a
there-
flavor into like so you get all your raw ingredients, right? Which are all just a powder.
Yeah,
Or are these like coming in like block forms and you're crushing them up? How does it?
No, we don't, and that's the other thing. Like we don't do any of it, right? So we go out and we contract labs.
Okay.
So we have lab partners. Two of them are in Georgia, and one is in North Carolina. Oh, and we have a new one that we just picked up in California. But we contract them, and they source all the raw ingredients, and then we ensure that because there's a lot that goes into it. And trust me, dude, there was a supplement company that just posted a video like a month ago, and these dudes are making the shit in their basement.
I know a guy
and I'm
that
like,
has a supplement
"Fuck
company
that."
that he makes it in the back. He's
Shut the fuck up.
he has bags of stuff.
Oh.
I thought that was normal.
No, fuck no.
No?
There's so many dangerous things. So yeah, with our lab partner, like we contract, we select the ingredients we want them to use, and then when they get it in, there's testing that raw ingredients go through to make sure that they're not. Because dude, like First Form, for example, right? Everybody knows First Form. I hate calling them out, but no, I don't. All right, so they're one of the worst fucking companies out there. Dude.
Really?
They've received 3 FDA warning letters within the past, I would say, 3-4 years. They've had 3 warnings from the FDA.
For what?
And then last year, not even last year, within the last 4 months, they had to do a recall on all of their protein because it was infested with staph bacteria, which would have fucked people up. And that's something that a simple microbial test would take care of. So that's what we rely on our FDA lab partners is, okay, when the raw ingredient gets here, it needs to have a microbial and heavy metal tests done to ensure it's free of contaminants. And then when it's blended, they do additional testing and, again, ensure that there's no contaminants and that it's free of banned substances, and because that happens a lot too. But the flavoring side of it, dude, it's intricate. It's not just mixing in some flavoring. Like they actually have chemists and stuff that make sure.
And now, are they for the product development? Do they send you do you get like a box of just samples and you get to go through them?
That's the best part.
I was
That's
gonna ask. That would be the most fun
dude.
part
Yeah.
about it.
They send me samples of like, here's your flavor profiles, and sometimes they get it right on the first go, and sometimes we have to kick it back and be like, no, it needs more of this or more of that.
Is
But
it
they're
your
pretty spot on.
decision, or do you sit down with a team and you're like, all right, and then you go off of a vote? Like, how do you
Yeah.
pick? Like, all right, this is the one. How do you get to that point?
Yeah, we normally pull in, like last one I had Chandler involved in, your boy, and but yeah, we pull in like a bigger group because we want to get more feedback.
Yeah.
Because my taste buds might not be aligned with everyone else's. So, but we'll pull in a broader team. It's usually anywhere between 30 to 40 people, and have them
Really?
all sample it and get feedback on which ones they rate and what they would like to see. So yeah, we make it like a big deal. But
That's cool.
I feel like that's also the reason, like there's some formulas, like I said, that get sent to me and it's like, man, these guys rushed the flavoring and did not do a good job of like masking stuff, because you can make stuff taste good, So for me, flavoring, it's like you brought up green apple, and I'm big against like companies that come out with like, hey, we got fruit punch, and hey, we got grape. It's like, these are the basic flavors. So you always notice ours are like off the wall.
Yeah.
Like we go with like Pineapple Express, and sometimes it's me just being like, hey, here's what I want to do. Let's take a mix of pineapple, lime juice, and vanilla cream, and let's see how this rolls. And that ended up being Pineapple Express, and it's my favorite flavor. And other times it's me just telling the lab like, hey, just send me something wild, and they know that like I don't like basic stuff, so mix some crazy flavors together and
Have
see what
you
happens.
ever thought about going to your social and doing polls and seeing what people would vote on, just to come up with some crazy flavors? I think that would be fun.
Yeah, we've done some crazy ones before, and we get some wild answers. I think that's where we came up with our, like, it was like, hey, what protein flavor? And someone like threw out pizza or some shit, or SpaghettiOs, and we ended up making like a April Fool's Day post about that. But yeah, definitely we always solicit feedback from people too, to see
Yeah.
what flavors they would want to see.
So if I'm a young kid I'm just getting into the fitness side of things, and my next step is supplements.
Next step meaning you what to take, or you want to start a business?
I want to take. We'll start there.
Okay.
What should I be looking for?
How
and
young
what should
are you?
Well, I'm just talking just as, I'm almost 40.
No, but if it's a young kid, like
17, 18 years old, just graduated, he wants to get fit, and because I used to work with a supplement company in the hunting industry until I found out like just what it was about.
Wilderness Athlete?
No, Mountain Ops.
Okay.
One of the absolute worst companies I've ever been involved with.
Okay.
That's a whole other podcast. But great marketing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, they got all the Cam Hanes, they got all the athletes that are like, this is the greatest supplement in the world. Until you turn the bottle around and actually
you're
read.
actually looking at,
and you're like, oh, this is dog shit. So to avoid that, and to be as a new kid that's just falling for marketing, what should I be looking for? Not the marketing side of things. If I'm legitimately trying to get into the fitness industry, like what are some of the things that I should be looking for and staying away from? Just a quick,
dude,
I know the ingredients can go miles deep.
Yeah.
But like, what are the big ones that these companies, the Mountain Ops, and I guess I don't know First Form. I've never rocked First Form, but like, what are these guys using that they shouldn't be, and that you're using that you should be looking out for?
See, and it's a loaded question because, dude, if you look at, there's so many supplement companies out there still using banned ingredients in their SFPs, and that's why First Form got one of their warning letters, because they were using histidine, hordenine, and another one. I don't remember what it was, but they were banned ingredients not to be used as dietary supplements, and they were, even though they're huge, they're a massive company, they're putting it in there.
How do they feel that they can just get away with that?
I mean,
think they just have the money to fight it?
A lot of people, they ended up changing their formula completely, but a lot of people, I feel like they're just like, the FDA doesn't have enough resources to go after all these people, and that's why they policies are written. People are like, oh, the FDA doesn't enforce, or the FDA they don't regulate the industry. They actually do, and there's policies in place to protect the consumer. They just don't have enough resources to go after all these companies for it. So I feel like First Form probably was like, they're not going to come after us. Well, they did.
When you're a mogul like that, you're on the spotlight. Like
right. And that's what shocked me. Like, why did they even attempt it?
Yeah.
But being a consumer looking at a label, that's a tough one, because you're not going to know what's banned and what's not. So I would first off look, is the company third-party tested, because that's going to tell you, okay, there's no banned ingredients in here.
And it should say that on the label, third-party tested?
It should say that somewhere on the label.
Okay.
They should have some sort of badge. The second piece is like proprietary blends. Look out for proprietary blends.
Why?
So the big thing is you just don't know
what's in it,
how much is in it. So the big thing, I always notice these companies that do proprietary blends that hides the caffeine content.
Okay.
And they'll be like, this has our energy matrix, and it's got like caffeine, taurine, whatever, listed all these ingredients, and it all totals up to, let's say, 3 grams, right? You don't know how much of that's caffeine. So what if they're giving you like a gram of caffeine, to get you all cracked out? But a gram's not safe. Like, that could lead to early heart complications. Well, anything over 400 milligrams is considered to have long-term health detrimental effects.
Which a lot of these companies, I feel like that's all you're taking is just sugar water.
Right.
It's just caffeine.
And that's why with us, like, caffeine's always the last thing we look at when it comes to a pre-workout. We always look at like the pump ingredients. We always look at the endurance ingredients, the focus ingredients, stuff that's going to get you that mind-muscle connection. And caffeine's always the last thing I look at, because a lot of companies they just want their people to feel cracked out. And that's the unfortunate thing, is, like we said, people are looking for that feeling. And most of the time what you're feeling is the stimulants. And so that's why a lot of pre-workouts, like there was a company that sent me one of their pre-workouts, I think it had 650 milligrams of caffeine in it.
Jeez.
And I railroaded them. I was like, this is irresponsible,
So that's a big one. That's where guys are slipping in the caffeine to get you that pump.
Caffeine and, just to get you energized. But, that much caffeine comes with a crash.
And, 100%.
And people, I don't know. In my opinion, there needs to be more self-motivation out there for people to get in the gym and handle business. You don't need all that caffeine. That's like with our formulas, we don't go over 275. M777 will be a high stem. I think it's like 375. But if you half scoop it, you're actually getting more than what you get in our flagship pre-workout now.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, we built it for the high stem junkies. You can take 2 scoops, you can get that high stem. You're still going to get a shit ton of pump and everything. But for a single scoop guy, you're actually getting more than what you get in our Ascended V2.
Got it.
And you're only getting like 150 milligrams of caffeine. So for that one, it's, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
This is a fascinating world to me because I've just watched for so long of how, I mean, marketing just sells. I mean, some of these companies, I feel like they're just putting absolute garbage in these cans.
It's like, and you can kind of see, like, you know, the Bucked Ups of the world, they put out a subpar product, but they're brilliant with their marketing. Brilliant with their marketing.
They are.
And they're killing it. So that's the downside of it, is like you do in this industry, because of how saturated it is, you have to make a name for yourself and how you do that. And that's one of the reasons why we're launching M777, because nobody's ever done this before. And it'll put more highlights on us as a company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just finding a way to stay relevant, like at the top. You just constantly have to innovate, but obviously obviously you're not sacrificing your quality of product, but obviously finding other ways to be able to stay in the spotlight.
Yep. Yeah, because you'll see some companies do that. The bigger they grow, their formulas shrink and they get worse. And then you also see companies like, I don't know if you remember Pre-Gym, Jim Stepani. He used to be at the top of the food chain, but he failed to evolve, and he just kept his formula the same, and you just saw him lose market share, and now he's not even spoken of.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're always looking to innovate our products, and that's why we go to like Supply Side West and learning about what's new and coming out, because you constantly have to evolve.
So this expo, so one thing that I find fascinating that I feel like majority of people have no idea exists. Like every industry has like a giant expo event.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, and I didn't get really turned on until I got into the apparel side of the world, and then I got to go out to these apparel, but you're going into these rooms that are just fabrics and denim and plaids, and you're just like
overwhelmed.
It's wild, and all these buyers. You know, I was working with Howitzer, which is one of our
Howitzer
sponsors.
clothing line?
Yeah, and so which we were getting into all the Buckles stores at that point, and so I got to fly out to Vegas, and I got to spend a day with the buyers. These 2 women. And I have never even experienced anything besides SHOT Show, you know, obviously the big gun one in Vegas every year. And this was at the Hard Rock Casino or Hard Rock Hotel.
Yeah.
I come out and these 2 women like kick the door in, and they come in with their whole entourage, and they're just tapping like materials and fabrics and designs, and there's like a team behind them putting stickers on, and then they had like an assembly line. Like those women would just tap, and then they would put stickers, and the next crew would come through and pull all of them. Then they're organizing them all. Then they'd go through, and they were just like throwing shit. And here I am looking at my designs, like, oh my god, they picked a couple, and they'd grab them, like throw it on the floor. I'm like, fuck, but we ended up getting a bunch in there. But it was just like your whole life is depending on these 2 women if they're gonna pick your apparel to go into the Buckle, and it's like, so you're like, it was so anxiety. I mean, my anxiety was maxed, and it ended up paying off, and it being, doing really well with Howitzer and us, and it's been an awesome partnership. But like, I had no idea this existed.
Yeah.
Like there was this whole world where these buyers come in and they're just ruthless, and they're just tearing shit apart and talking all this crap on the plaids and the denim.
Right in front of you?
Oh, just. They don't care. It's about selling. It's about making Buckle money. They don't give a fuck about you. You're just, please pick my shirt.
Mine, yeah.
Please pick my designs. You have no say
in it. You can't say shit. You just got to watch.
And I'm just walking, and then we turn down the aisle where it's like our aisle of all of our, and they just I'm like, pick them all. And they did. Anyways, so you go to these supplement. So are these just a bunch of chemists that are coming out with new? Is this where
it's a combination? Yeah.
How does a supplement expo look as far as the buying side of things? What does that consist of?
Dude, it's and that's the thing. Like, if you don't love this world, you will hate that. Like, for me, I nerd out on this shit. And I love it, right? Like, I love learning about these ingredients, so I just geek out. But you also have to be careful, because there's ingredients that have not passed the sniff test before that made it through, right? Like, with claims, and they had scientific literature to back it up, and then come to find out like a year later, it's like, oh, it was all fucking bogus.
So there's a stolen valor of the supplement world.
Kind of, yeah. It was but they're unique. You know, you get to learn a lot about these new ingredients, but it's not like some chemist. It's usually these big corporations.
Okay.
And because if you have a trademarked ingredient, it's gone through clinical trials, and that requires fucking money.
Yeah.
And so. So yeah, it's these big companies like Compound Solutions, Nutra Innovations. There's these big conglomerates that own these trademarked ingredients, and then they'll pitch it to you, and they try and get it in, an agreement with your formula that you're going to put it in, and you do the trademark licensing, and
So is this where you're going to go and like find like because I feel like mushrooms are like the new big thing in the supplement world, which I want to jump into that. But is that where you're like going and finding out and talking to these companies, or is this not something that happens there? Like, are you finding new ingredients and new supplements and
you'll find new ingredients. And it's interesting because my buddy owns Mental Joe. I should have you talk to him, but he owns Mental Joe Apparel, which is it's a nonprofit organization. They basically fund soldiers who want to go through psychedelic therapy, whether it be ketamine or psilocybin or whatever. But he wants to launch a product that helps with, kind of that, because it's coming. The products that help with like the downside of taking these things.
Yep.
But there's a lot of red tape, and so like I've been trying to help him, but there's ingredients you have to make sure that they're approved by the FDA, that they can be used as dietary supplements, that they've passed GRAS, which is generally reliable and safe. So it's there's a lot of red tape, and that's the hard part too. For anybody listening to this that wants to jump into the dietary supplement space, it's becoming more and more constrictive.
Oh, I'm sure.
The FDA is like
is the FDA doing it because some of the stuff works too well, or
there's been instances of that,
like it's just too good of a supplement, and I feel like they're getting because that's where my mind has always been, like, why are they banning it? Like, I've always been like, if the government's telling me to do this or some form of control is telling me, I'm always the opposite.
Yeah.
So like,
I'm gonna do the opposite of what you tell me.
Yeah, like, oh, you guys shouldn't take the supplement. Why? And it is and it's working or whatever. But it's like, is that what it comes down to, or are they actually looking after our health?
I think that there's both sides, right? Like, you have obviously the DMAA ban, which was huge, and there were people that were dying taking this ingredient. But then you have ingredients like NAC, N-acetyl L-cysteine, which has tons of clinical literature. Like, I take it daily. I take 1,200 milligrams of it because it's a precursor to glutathione, and it helps with like, oh my God, it helps with like, it's loaded with antioxidants, which is going to help fight off free radicals, and it's good for immune system support. It's good for detoxifying your liver and kidneys and stuff. It has detoxifying benefits, and the FDA banned it. They said, no, this shouldn't be a dietary supplement. It should be a Schedule II drug, and they were trying to push it over here to Big Pharma. Yeah. And there was a big battle, and the FDA lost that battle, and so it became a dietary supplement again. This was just recent.
So that goes to my question of why they try to ban some of these supplements, is to push to the big pharma side of things to make more money on it.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you saw their new bill, and I did videos about this. I was doing call to arms, but they had a bill called S.4090 that they were trying to launch like a year ago, and it died on the Senate floor, thankfully. But their thing was they were trying to basically turn over all of dietary supplement industry to Big Pharma. And people were like, oh yeah, needs to happen, because all these shady companies putting out stuff. And I was like, you don't understand, though. Like, this kills innovation, because if you read the bill, it's like you couldn't produce a new product. It would have to go through all sorts of clinical testing. So, like, even if you wanted to do a new flavor rendition of, like, our pre-workout, it'd have to go through clinical testing. And it forces the small guy out, because we can't afford to do these clinical tests. So it was pushing it all to Big Pharma. And people were like, oh, this needs to happen. It's like, no, do you understand? If you go through Big Pharma, whose average markup is 900%, you're going to be paying like $160 for a tub of protein that you're buying now for $30, right? And people are like, oh, you know. But luckily it died on the Senate floor. But the FDA keeps trying to
Constantly
shut it down, and it's not good. And now you're seeing that with the likes of Amazon, since they have the enforcement issue. And they don't have all the resources to go out and enforce this. They're forcing the big players to do it for them. So they came out with all these new policies with Amazon that's forcing like the smaller players off of Amazon, because they hit Amazon with all these fines, like, hey, you're putting people's products up here that have these banned substances in it, or these banned ingredients, or that were tested and we found that they didn't meet label claims. And like, for every instance we find of this, we're going to fine you. And so Amazon's butthole got all puckered up, and they put all these regulations and enforcement policies in place to push out the smaller players off Amazon. So it's like the FDA, if they can't get that bill S-4090, then they're going to segue and go this way and force Amazon, and now the TikTok shop and Shopify. And you feel it getting really constricted, and a lot of red tape going up all over the place. And it's scary. It's scary for businesses like me.
I'm sure.
But, you know, we continue
How do you combat that? I mean,
it's kind of hard to, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like the hard part is if FDA forces these things to happen and pushes stuff to big pharma, right? It doesn't fix the issue, because you have all these small players out there that are making these illegal pre-workouts. You could go to Jack Supplements here in town. They have a slew of them, right? And they buy them from these smaller buyers. It's just going to force more people, even the guys like us that want to do things the right way. It's either we shut down, or else we make it on the gray market and continue to push it out to smaller mom and pop shops like it's being done now. I don't know. That's not the direction I would go, but that's what would happen. It doesn't fix the issue.
So as far as like always staying in the mix of things, what's next? I mean, like I kind of brought up the mushroom thing, not the psychedelic side of things, but I know there's a lot of cognitive, like memory things with mushrooms. I see a lot of companies are now working and putting those in.
Adaptogens and.
What do you think of those? Is that all gimmick, or is? I mean,
No,
there's a lot of science behind it, but.
Yeah. So like KSM-66, it's a trademarked form of ashwagandha.
Okay.
It's the purest form of ashwagandha root. I take it. It shows that it's clinically proven to reduce your cortisol levels and help you deal with stress. So I take it daily.
Do you make any of this?
Yeah, we put it in our greens product. So that's one of the ingredients I contracted, and we put it in our greens product. And we also have it in our testosterone product, because it lowers your cortisol levels, which is going to help you balance your hormones and help you build more testosterone. So, we have it in those two products.
Nice, dude. Okay.
Reason.
So let's say me in my 40s, right? I'm turning the big 40 this year.
Oof.
I know, right? Which, I mean, besides my stiffness, I'm built like I'm as flexible as a 2x4.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude, I tell people, like, I almost didn't get on contract to go to Afghan because of my flexibility.
Because your mobility was bad?
Bro. I was so juiced out of my mind, though. I was running.
Oh, were you?
I was running DECA, test, sust. I started with that cycle with D-ball. I put on 19 pounds in 20 days, dude. I was
like pure muscle.
Fucking, dude, I was like 290. I was stupid.
You were 290?
Running, going 6'3".
Gosh.
Shredded 290. Yeah, I could have stepped on stage anywhere. Like, I was
no
just
shit.
Juiced out of my mind. We had to sit. I show up on this contract, and we went to Playa, New Mexico as the training center. It was an old abandoned, it looked like, you know those nuke videos where they blow up the little town with the swing sets and shit? I think that's all fake, but it looked like that. Like, it was abandoned, and it was an old, like, if anybody's ever been to Playa, New Mexico, they know what I'm talking about. Middle of bumfuck nowhere. An old abandoned town that I think it was a mining town at one point that they just built like literally these little homes. They're all the same, just cookie cutter, and had like little school there. It was literally a mining town, abandoned. They converted it into like where we were training. Fuck, I don't even know where I was going with this.
But you almost didn't get your contract because of how
flexibility.
Yeah.
So we're out there. I show up and I'm just giant. And all these dudes are like, all the instructors are like, what do you want? I'm like, nothing. Then we have to do this 3-mile run. And I'm a runner. Like, even at my heaviest, I'm still finishing top. I just go until my body pretty much quits. Like, I just run. I come trucking across, like this gorilla, and all these dudes are like with their stopwatches, like. And I think I was the first or second guy. I was in the top, like two or three. And I'm like barfing. I'm just winded. I can't do anything. They're like, "What gear you running? What gear you running?" I'm like, "I'm not running any gear. I'm all natural, you know." And I'm just giant. And the last thing we had to do was sit down flat, like legs in front of you, and you had to put your feet against the block, and you have to reach and push. So they have a wooden box that your feet are against, and they have a block on the top, and you have to push this block past your toes like a certain length. I can't even touch my toes. So I do 2 attempts, and if you do 3, you're like, that's it. Like, you get 3 attempts. And I'm like, all of this bullshit, and this is what I'm gonna get dropped from this course over is my flexibility. And some random guy, I don't even know who he was, like, yo, come here. Has me sit down, and I bend all the way forward. And he's like, push against me. And he's like, literally, I'm pushing my back up against him. And he does it like 5 times. He's like, all right, go do it. And I run over, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And I literally, and I just throw myself. And I'm talking, barely made it. And then my piss test came back, and I popped on like 10 different things.
You still got the contract though?
My buddy pissed in a bottle, and I poured it in a condom. I tied it to my dick, and I went re-pissed.
Oh.
So I ended up passing. Yeah, the good old days.
They're like, what gear are you on? Nothing. Oh, shit.
Then it comes back, and I get a call. Well, I mean, since that cat's out of the bag, we might as well talk about that. Yeah, so I do the stretch. Everything's good. I'm sitting in a machine gun class, and this instructor comes in. They're like, is Brian in here? I'm like, yeah. They're like, hey, the HR needs to see you. And I was like,
oh, shit.
I'm like, oh. Well, I wasn't even. So when they sent the piss test screen, there wasn't any steroids on it that they were screening for.
Yeah, it's normally they're just looking for like marijuana.
Yeah,
Narcotics.
it was narcotics, right? Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm good. I pissed and went on with my life. Well, these idiots didn't send the back. There was 2 forms which showed all of the shit that they test for. So I just walk into the piss center here, right down the street, and I just take my piss, send it off to the company, and everything's good to go. And I'm at the training, and I almost didn't make it for my flexibility. Well, this guy comes in, and he's like, hey, then you see HR. And I'm not thinking anything of it because they were all fucked up. Like, they were losing all our paperwork. They didn't even know who half of us were, if we even existed. It was a shit show. And so I walk in, and they're like, you're Brian? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, do you know what? And they start reading off like the scientific names. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And they're like, well, your piss test, your urinalysis test came back positive for these like 4 things. And I'm like, and they like hand me a sticky note with like these names on them. And I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, I don't do drugs, you know? Like, I didn't even smoke weed. I'm like, what the hell did I'm genuinely walking back
like
to
shocked.
class like, this has to be wrong. Like, I'm not doing drugs.
What'd you do? Google it, and you're like,
So I'm like,
oh
what
fuck.
the fuck is blah blah blah? And I type in like the first like 4 letters, and it's like DECA pops up. I'm like, it's like DECA could be in your system up to 24 months or some shit. I'm
24
like,
months.
it's long. DECA's one of the long
shit.
ones. I'm like, oh my god. And so I walk back and I sit down in class, and I'm sitting there, and like I just got out of the military to go contracting. Like, this is
Like, this is it.
This is it. This is what I'm doing. Like, I just pissed all of this away, literally. And I'm sitting there, and they're talking about like the 50 cal or the 240, and I'm not giving a fuck. Like, you never remember in high school when you think your girlfriend's pregnant or something, and it's like your life's done.
Yeah.
You got caught up, and you're like, oh, I'm sitting there like sick to my stomach. I'm like, how am I gonna tell my chick this? Like, the fuck am I gonna do with my life? I just popped on a piss test going with the Afghan. Like,
Yeah.
what an idiot, you know? And his name was Rob Ryan, one of the dopest dudes I've ever met in my life. He's sitting next to me. We were roommates in this little shack, and he leans over. He's like, "Did you pop on a piss test?" I'm like, "How in the fuck did you know?" He's like, "I can tell." He's like, I got you. And I don't even know this guy. Like, we've
You don't
known each
even
other a
know.
couple weeks.
Yeah.
He's like, I got you. I'm like, what do you mean you got me? He's like, I'll piss for you. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, at first I was like, this dude set me up, you know? He's like, I got you. So this is, so they're like, they gave me the time. They're like, you need to come back and re-piss. And I was like, okay, no problem. So that time comes. I'm like, hey, dude, like, don't piss today. I got my piss test today. It was like the next 2 days later, I think, is when they had to have a mobile piss test to come in. So we go on lunch, and I was like, hey, dude, can you piss? He's like, yeah, I got you. So he pisses in a bottle, and I had to walk to this convenience store to buy condoms, like the most awkward shit ever.
You got the bottle of piss on you? Or
No,
walking?
not at this point. I'd already gotten the condoms.
Okay.
And so pisses in this bottle, gives it to me. I open up a condom. The first one I got had lube. So it was like, it's all,
gross.
and I'm like, fuck, and I'm trying to wipe this, stretching this condom with toilet paper, trying to clean it off because I got to tie this thing to my dick somehow, like attach it to me. I've never done this before. So I get this water bottle and I'm like pouring the piss, tie this condom off. I had to get dental floss and I tie this. You know how uncomfortable having a condom full of piss tied to your dick is? It is
With dental floss?
with dental floss. I was in the middle of the desert. Like, I don't have like a Walmart. Like, go. I don't know. I didn't want to put it in my pocket. I didn't know how this was gonna go. I've never done this before. I'm just Googling like how to like cheat a piss test.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, just put it in the condom. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this is what we do. So I got a little pair of, the cuticle scissors, like
Yeah.
the IP scissors for your uniform. I had that in my hygiene kit, so I put that in my pocket to cut
Yeah.
everything off.
And-
By the time we got all this situated and I finally tied this thing to my dick, like, I'm running late, so I take off running to the HR with this piss tied to me, and it's
flopping around.
not close. Like, it's a several minute walk. The fucking bag rips, or the condom rips. Like, I'm like, kind of like walking brisk, but not like running. It's kind of like a joggish in a way, very fast walk.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I just feel liquid
No.
running down my pants, and I look, and it is just,
It's not even your piss.
it's not even my piss. That's the last thing on my mind. Like, that wasn't even that wasn't even on my radar. I'm like, how am I going to go to HR? But it looks like I just pissed my pants. And be like, oh, I can't pee now. Like, I just pissed my pants on the way here. Like, how obvious does that look? This van pulls up, and they're like, hey, piss tests are canceled today. Like, we got training instead. And I'm standing there with a van full of these dudes. I'm about to go to Afghan with tan cargo pants, like tan, like
Yeah.
5'11". So it's
It's
and
like
they're-
the dark stage.
yes. And all these dudes are like, what the fuck? I'm like, don't even fucking ask. Give me a ride back to the house. And I get in. And so I go and I change really quick. And they're like, hey, so I'm asking, like, when's the reschedule? When are we rescheduling? So they finally give us this date. Like, the mobile piss test will be here. So I do it again. He pisses for me. I'm like, God, this is horrible. So, like, now I'm walking I got like the limp walk, like I'm throwing my leg, like, so I'm not
Yeah.
like rubbing anything. So I have to walk to HR. So now my big concern was the temperature, because those piss cups have a temperature reading on them. So when you piss,
Oh,
in
they
the-
do?
Yes, so
I
you
didn't
can
know
tell if it's old or not. They have a little, like like on a fish tank, like the little sticky, it turns green or red for the temperatures. So they have a thermometer or
So you
whatever.
gotta keep it like
Yeah, and that's why
warm.
That's why you have to have it tied to your dick, so it's your body temperature. This is what I'm being told. So I get there and I show up, dude, and it is like, and there's several other classes going on. Like, it's not just everybody in one. Everybody's in different phases of this training, so you don't know everybody. And I turn the corner and I come walking around. There's the mobile van, and I look at the line, and it's just every juiced out dude. Like, every one of these guys that repissing are all these giant meatheads, and I was like, we're all looking at each other like,
yeah.
like looking like you're in here for what I'm in here for, And I was like, I'm gonna piss my pants because I was stressing. I was like, this is gonna rip again, and the whole entire time I can feel it like slide. It felt like it was sliding because I didn't tie it as tight because the
You
dental
didn't want
floss
to rip. Yeah.
so I could feel it, and I'm like holding, and I look like a child that has to pee, and I'm like, I gotta pee, I'm about to piss my pants, and then they're like, all right, fine, if you gotta go, you can go first. And it's just like a giant minivan that's converted into a toilet. And I was like, yeah, it was a mobile piss center. And so it's literally like a Sprinter van, and you just go in and you slide the door closed, and there's a pisser, and it's got a counter in there. And a little wash station, and I thought this was military. Like there's gonna be some guy standing there staring
Doing
at
the
my
pee-pee
dick. I'm
watcher.
like, that's what I'm stressed on. So I have my cuticle scissors like in my hand, and I'm gonna try to like sneak it. And I'm like, fuck, how am I gonna do this if some dude's watching me? So I go in and I step up in there, and the guy hands me the bottle, and he shuts the door, and I'm like,
Oh.
I pull my wiener out and snip, fill the cup up, and I didn't know if it was warmer, and I'm still tripping. Like, okay, I'm gonna give this to him as fast as possible. And so he puts it on the table, and I thought he was gonna wait to see where the temperature was. Mm-hmm. And he pulls out his 2 little things, goes, pulls in 2, labels them, says, okay, you're good. And I was like,
Thank God.
we're in. And then all my instructors, even in Afghan, are like, so what gear you running? What do you want? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm natural. I'm that. I still denied it. I never, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got my job to go to
Such a
Afghan.
great story, man.
Oh, I don't think I've ever told anybody that story either, except for,
Fucking piss pants.
yeah, dude. It's like the van pulls up full of these dudes that are going to Afghan on a contract, and I'm standing there on the sidewalk, a little kid, like piss my pants. Like, you want to talk about degrading? I don't even know how we got on that subject, but yeah, dude, it was that was a wild time. Like, idiot though. I never even thought about steroids when they told me I
Yeah, but you're
did.
right. They don't normally test for that. Maybe they do on contract, but
Oh yeah,
normal
well
military,
they
don't.
were because Blackwater, all those dudes that were murdering motherfuckers over there.
Oh,
That's
roid
how they
rage?
got out of their charges, their murder charges, because they were like, had roid rage and PTSD, and so they combined the two. So that's when we were on contract. They weren't even letting us take sups on contract. Like I think Jack 3D was still popular then, and they
2009, 2010.
They banned a lot of stuff during that time because that's what the Blackwater guys were claiming, why they were all tripping out and not doing well over there. They were blaming it on their supplements. So then when on our contract, they're like, yeah, no, we're not playing that game.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I ended up getting fired from that job anyways. And not my proudest
Another story.
That's another story. That's a good story too. The only job I've ever been fired from. But yeah, it was wild. So. I don't even know how we got on that subject. Mushrooms somehow, but yeah, man.
Yeah.
So what's next for you for the subs, man? I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously 12 years in. I mean, that's quite the accomplishment
Dude,
to have a
it's-
business that long. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we should be a lot bigger, but the first, dude, while I was working my full-time gig, my corporate job, you know, I was only giving UXO like 10% of my attention. And so the first, I didn't go all in on UXO until a year and a half ago.
Really?
Yeah. So the rest of the time I was working my full-time career job, and I was slinging sups out of my garage.
Are you still doing, or did you walk away completely?
I walked away completely, yeah.
Good
I got
for
to the point
you.
where, you know, because like I said, it's like I needed to do something important with my life, and my old job, I kept getting promoted. Like I told you, it was office space, and so you get hamstrung because then you get more money and you buy more toys. I had a motorcycle, I had a wakeboard boat, I had a diesel truck, I had all these toys, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Because I hated my job. So I sold all my toys, and I was like, I'm just breaking away from this and going after what I truly love and what I want to do. And yeah, I broke away from it, and then UXO, that's when it started to like take off. Was when they always tell you burn the boats, go all in, but it's scary, dude. It's hard to do that when you have,
For sure.
you know, family and you got bills and stuff like that. So I found a way to make it work and walked away from it and went all in.
Good for you. I mean, I feel it's scary. It's that initial leap
Yeah,
to
it's the
take that
scariest.
to take that jump. And what's been one of your biggest hurdles that you've faced in the supplement world since you left your 9 to 5?
Yeah,
Because obviously being self-employed, the 9 to 5 goes away. I mean, it's 24/7.
it's 24/7.
What's
yeah,
been-
everybody's always like, yeah, I traded in my 9 to 5.
You know, and
Work
people say
24/7.
that they're like, "Oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, work for myself, so I don't have to do the 9 to
Yeah,
5." And you're up at 3 a.m. going through reviews on your website, like, "Fuck!"
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it
Dude,
never
my wife
ends.
Hates it. My wife
Never
hates
ends.
it. Yeah,
Does she?
Oh yeah, dude. She hates it, and
Now.
But that's what. Yeah, now.
Till you sell that son of a bitch for.
And that's the goal. I think, like, just because of how restricted it is, I want to grow it as big as I can get it and then sell it off.
For sure. I mean, that's kind of the dream goal is to build businesses, sell them, and start over. You know.
Yeah.
So, what hurdles? I mean, what are some of the things? I mean, now that you're just all in, like, there's got to be some things that are.
God, endless hurdles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I could pick just one because it's like you're always learning. There's always something new. And, like, dude, I don't know. But like the biggest hurdles I would say for us has been how to compete against these Goliaths, and it's like that have these deep marketing pockets.
Yeah.
And that's why I go back to like we changed our mindset, and it had to be less about the formulas. Like anybody who knows supplements looks at our formulas can see it's there, but it's like we had to figure out how to tell our story better, and we're still figuring that out.
Oh,
dude.
for sure.
You know, but endless hurdles, man. It's you name it. Like we've come across it. Cease and desist letters from other companies.
Really?
Yeah,
For
it's
what?
fucking- and it was actually our fault. Title infringement. Yeah, we
love it.
launched a product that was basically the same as another company I didn't even know existed and didn't do enough research beforehand. So, but that's the thing. When you run these hurdles, you have to learn from it.
Oh, yeah.
To not let it happen again. You know.
Yes.
We made a label mistake one time. It cost me like $5,000 and.
And just stickers or what?
Yeah, just the label that goes on. There was a huge typo right in the middle of the fucking label, and they didn't catch it until after they printed, and we had to reprint all the labels, and it's like $1 a piece, and it's like, fuck me. So it's like, you know, you run into these hurdles, and it's like you just adapt and learn, and like never going to let that happen again.
Yeah.
You know?
It's amazing how one letter
Yeah.
can cost you. We had an incident
it was
where we did the
two
same
letters
thing.
were flipped, yeah.
We did a print. This was the early stages of Wishes, like early on. I think we were like year 2. And we got approached to do a calendar of all of our vets. They wanted each month to be represented by a different veteran. We're like, oh, perfect. Like, this is awesome. All the vets were super cool with it. They had really badass photos of it, kind of told their story and this whole thing, right? Like amputees and guys that are burns and PTSD, like from all spectrums of being wounded, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was really cool until we got like 2,000 calendars sent to our house. And we opened it up, and like they spelt wishes, like think wishes wrong, and one of the veterans' names and rank was like not even. We don't even know where they pulled it from. It wasn't even the vet.
It's not
like,
even a real thing.
We never even helped somebody name this guy's name. We were like, and we were devastated because
Yeah, when you're a small company.
a small charity, and we like back then I think it was like I want to say it was like $2,000 or $2,500 for us.
A lot.
For a brand new charity where you're struggling for every dollar. We were like, I think I ended up paying out of pocket. We were like, we have to reprint them. Like we did this whole campaign because this was going to help raise money, but it was just like, holy shit. But it, you know, obviously it wasn't $50,000, but to a charity in the early days and $2-3 into it, like you just already spent that money. Then you have to reprint everything. Oh God, it was
Miserable, yeah.
definitely some learning occurs. But I mean, you know, when you're constantly facing new hurdles, and I think is one of the challenging parts but also fun parts of being a business owner is figuring out all the solutions.
Yep.
You know, and recently I jumped into a new adventure, and it's 1,000,000 miles an hour. There's no time. We don't ever come up for air. There's no breathing in with this adventure, right? But with that, we have to learn everything on the fly because there's no like preparing and researching. It's just like, hey, we need this now, make it happen, cool, and we do it, and then we find out everything we fucked up along the way. And so, the wife and I, we were just talking. I was like, we've learned more in the last 4 months, 5 months than I've done in the last 5 years, just because of the tempo of this. Yeah. And so, but what's amazing about that is it's like, now when it occurs or if it comes back around, we're like, okay, here's the solution. So now it's like we're learning all of these problem solving skills or solutions or different approaches or whatever it has to be, because now it's not like, oh, hey, I'm working for a company and we have to have them figure it out. Now it's like your life depends on it.
Yeah.
And so it's scary, but at the same time it's fun because like there's no other option. There's nobody else to be like, okay, can you help with this? Like how the fuck do we? I mean, not Amazon. Who shut us down, Chris? Shopify.
Shopify shut you down.
Oh,
Wishes or who?
No,
Goat.
Another.
Because of the
Fuck me, dude. So we launched this giveaway. First time doing a giveaway. So we're learning a lot, right? Like I've never done a giveaway of this scale before.
Yeah, it was huge.
And the vehicle alone is categorized as military or law enforcement didn't know, even though this is a 100% civilian-owned street. It's an F550.
Oh, F550.
Built on an F550 chassis, and it's an armored vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, social media platforms categorize, even though it's 100% street legal in all 50 states. I mean, anybody can own this vehicle.
Yeah.
It's categorized as a military/law enforcement vehicle. We couldn't even post videos or, I mean, Shopify.
You couldn't run ads on it. You can.
We launch, right? We go live. And Chris and I are at Barrett Jackson. We go live with this giveaway. We're filming, doing all this stuff there. Everything's hunky-dory. Shopify goes and just flipped the switch off. It wouldn't even respond to us. So now we just launched this massive giveaway, giving away a $400,000 armored vehicle or Bitcoin. Didn't know that was considered gambling for Meta, so they shut down all of that. So now we got.
Oh, Jesus.
Now we're getting hit for gambling, giving away money to go do for gambling, which didn't know. Giving away, you can't give away, sell, or promote military or law enforcement vehicles. Didn't know.
Yeah.
So now we're like, what the fuck do we do? Like, we just launched this giveaway. We have hundreds in sales coming in a day.
And you can't promote it.
And we don't even have a website.
You can't even. Yeah, how are you accepting payment?
We weren't. It just crushed us. It crushed us dead in the water. And we're trying to figure this out. Well, I'm on the road. Chris is with me. The wife's freaking out. I'm all in on this. Like, I'm the face of it now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the Shopify won't even get back to us. So we have to, like, literally build a whole new website
What'd you build it
overnight.
through, like Wix or something? Or what'd you?
The second, dude, we've gone through like 5 websites already because we just
No
keep finding.
shit.
We're back on Shopify. They finally wanted to let us play with them.
Oh, they did.
We went to
Good.
GoDaddy for a while. We went through all these different platforms, but the wife rebuilds this whole entire website like overnight, like has to knock this thing out.
Oh my
It took
God.
Shopify like 3 weeks, almost.
And they got back on board though.
And they were like, "Oh, here you go. You can have your account." And they never even gave us a reason why. And they wouldn't even respond to us. They're like, "It's under your account's under review." So it's like, as a business owner, like, what do you
Yeah.
do? I have this giveaway. We have hundreds of orders a day. All of a sudden, the switch is flipped. We are dead in the water. And so it's like, oh, be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but like you say, you can't just give up and be like,
You can't.
oh, well,
You
this
can't.
sucks.
Like,
you
we're all
just
in. So it's
fucking-
constantly like, okay, what's next? Get a new domain. Get a website build. We need a landing page now. We need to get everything connected back to it. And so, like, that's like, and to be able to do that in a day
is insane.
Yeah, and thank God. I mean, the team that we have, and with,
Because how many SKUs did you have?
at that time, it wasn't a lot of. We still don't have a lot of SKUs, but the volume was
Insane.
insane. And so it's like we have a fulfillment center. We have to get Shopify plus all of the back end tied in. I mean, it's not just like a plug and play and you're back up and running. Like, we had to start everything fresh. And so once we got that going, but it was like how much we learned in that like 4 weeks alone.
Yeah.
We were like, holy shit. So now we have all these backups built in case something happens where somebody flips the switch on this end.
Yeah.
We can turn our switch on a whole other platform, and we're ready to rock and roll. And I actually learned this with working for Cryptech during the January 6th thing. Some company went through all of the footage of January 6th at the Capitol.
Anybody who's wearing Cryptech?
Not even Cryptech, any Second Amendment, Republican-owned, two-way supporting, law enforcement, tactical, anything that wasn't owned by a leftist company. And somebody went through and made a list of, I mean, I'm talking shorts, shoes, sunglasses,
Oh my God.
people were wearing Cryptech. Like, they had vests and, I don't know, the fucking,
It's a camo pattern.
yeah, it's like whatever, right? Well, they published this and they sent it to all of the giant news conglomerates, and then they published this list of all of the companies that are in support of the January
insurrection.
6th people, the supporters. We were supporting them, and you know what happened to us? Every platform switched off. We
What?
couldn't even run an ad about a hunting glove that was made out of kangaroo skin. Like, we couldn't even run an ad or promote a video of who we were, which were 2 veterans that owned that company. We couldn't even run a who we were ad they shut us completely down. We were dead for months. So we had to shift gears. That's when we started going back to print marketing, like hunting magazines and old school stuff that they can't just turn off with the flip of a switch. Like, that was a huge deal. I mean, they shut us down overnight, all because we had some random person wearing a Cryptek hat. Like, that was probably licensed by another company that used the pattern and put their fucking logo on it, but it was our pattern. So, it's things like that. You always just, I mean, but I have buddies that they'll have these little hurdles pop up, and it's like, I don't know what to do. I'm dead in the water. It's like, you got to figure it out. But yeah, that's being an entrepreneur.
Sink or swim.
Fucking A.
Right, and that's the unfortunate thing is there's too many people that will do just opt for the easier route out. They just give up when times get rough. And yeah, as a true entrepreneur, you can't do that.
If you want to talk about gray hairs and sleepless nights, start your own business and you learn real quick how mentally strong you are. Yeah, that's for sure. I'm glad, Dan, that you're all in and things are going great. And so it's good, man. I really like to see, like, especially veterans out just doing it and doing it on their own. And have you taken on any investors, or is that a route that you're trying to stay away from?
I'm trying to stay away from it. And we have offers on the table, and I've been avoiding it. It's hard to sell away a piece of something that you've built for so long.
100%.
And then the other piece is too. And another lesson learned. There's good money and there's bad money too. So if we ever do go to solicit investments, or I guess even entertain one of these offers, it's like I want to make sure it's the right person and
a good partner.
A good partner.
Not getting in bed with the devil. I've seen that happen a lot. Yeah. People think money is the key to everything, and it ends up being a Trojan horse for them. And we've dealt with that, and we're kind of dealing with it right now with a company. And they came in looking like the knight in shining armor, and it's like, so we're in the process right now of fading out a company that we're associated with, and it's just not worth it. More problems, and it's just a heartache, and it's not worth what they're bringing to the table, what they're demanding from us on this, and it's just
how much they're gonna take.
Why, So we don't need it, and I've been there. It's not fun. Yeah. But then at the same time, I mean, I know guys that got investors, and they're making $50 million a year now.
It was probably the next thing that they needed to take them to the next level, and
So well, dude, if people want to get a hold of you. And subs and everything like that, how do they reach out to you? How do we find you?
I think the best way, Instagram, just Jon_Klipsten. I'm sure you'll have the name spelled up there. And then just through uxosupplements.com too. Like I'm very hands-on too, so like I have that total control to our inbox, so I see, because I want to know any customer complaint, anything like that. So even if you reach out to us through there, I'm bound to see it.
So people reach out and have questions about maybe getting started on a certain stack of just mental health, or not mental health, but just
whatever
health, health side of things.
It doesn't even have to be about our products. Like I'll have people that reach out to me just because they follow me on TikTok and they have questions about another brand too. And I'm always open to help people out, just help guide them on the right path. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Because not every supplement's not just like a cookie cutter structure. It depends on goals and so many variables that go into it. So and we don't even have supplements that's right for everybody too.
For sure. I like how honest and open you are about it. I feel like if there's any companies that anybody should support, it's the ones that are real about things. Even if we don't make the best, but this is what it is, or this is what we have, we don't offer this. I think over the years of working with companies and, with your sponsorships or whatever, those were always like the greatest relationships that you can build. They're companies that are just true to who they are and not trying to sell just off of a market, spending that marketing dollar just to capture your email and as a one-time customer. I'm sure you want lifelong supplement users, so it's pretty cool. So last question.
Sure.
Any word of advice, if I'm looking to start a business as a veteran and getting out, is there any word of advice that you would give? I know it's kind of a tough one. I threw you on the spot.
Any business?
Any business.
Man, it's got to be something you're passionate about, right? Like, I had another buddy that started as a veteran, he started a business, and he's making these knives, right? But something he's passionate about. And I feel like if you're passionate about it and you love what you're doing, then you'll be successful, And when you hit those tough times, you'll find a way to push through, because if you're passionate about it, it's your baby, it's something you want to push forward. If you just want to start a business to try and make money, you're going to fail.
Oh, for sure. Which I think is
that's where a lot of this new generation of TikTok, Instagram is. They see the cars and the jets and the traveling, and they think like, I'm gonna start a business and that's it, and I'm just gonna be making money. They don't realize the first 5 years you're gonna be just grinding.
Yep. Yeah,
That's
the first
5 years if
we
you're
lost,
lucky.
We lost thousands of dollars, but I kept pushing forward because I believed in the mission. Yeah, anybody who gets in business because they want to try and get rich quick it's not that way.
No.
Maybe for a select few.
Find you, and it's a big thing that you say, find something that you're passionate about, because when you're getting your website shut down, you're getting crucified for everything. You don't have the funding, or you're spending money out of your pocket. It's not fun.
Yeah, and if you're not passionate about it, I bet you would have just given up and been like, well, fuck it.
On to the next.
Yep.
And then you see that a lot. And so it's like, but yeah, passion is, I probably would 100% agree with you on that one, is a huge, huge thing behind it. And it could be the hardest industry, but I feel like if you are 100% in on it, it just, once that snowball starts rolling, but it could be years before it does. And you just got to stick it out and grind it out like you did. And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Good for you, man. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and shoot the shit.
Pleasure.
So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, you too,
and
bro.
So if anybody's listening, check them out. We'll put everything linked below.
Please
and
do.
Hopefully they get some people that reach out and have questions, even if they're about other supplement companies that you're willing to answer any questions about them. That's pretty awesome.
I'm a pretty transparent guy, so
Cool.
it could be whatever.
Cool, man.
Military, any questions you guys got,
Heck yeah.
I'm there to answer.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.